just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, a magic episode, baby. A magic episode. Now, before we get into that magic episode, I've got to let you know, Mother's Day is this Sunday, you dogs. I know you dogs thought you were going to get away with it, not getting your mum a present. How dare you, sir? How dare you, sir? But it's all been made simple for you. Head to bloke.shop. We got Super Mum, Footy Mum, Best Mum, Boss Mum, shirts that you can get your mum for Mother's Day. So it's all simple. Order it, comes to your house, give it to her on Sunday. I'm telling you right now, she will absolutely love it. The Footy Mum hats, they're all sold out, but we do have some Super Mum hats left. So head to bloke.shop, guys. Easy, simple. Show either your wife who's a mother or your mum how much you appreciate them with a $49.95 t-shirt. I'm telling you, even if they don't like the colours or the size or whatever, it is going to be the gesture that counts that you say Super Mum, Boss Mum, Footy Mum. And also, obviously, if the size doesn't fit, we can replace it for you. So don't stress about that. So head to bloke.shop, grab your wife or your mother a Mother's Day gift, because seriously, what would we be without our mums? We wouldn't exist, that's for sure. Guru,
what a weekend.
Have you had a chat about the birds and the bees lately or not?
Had a few.
Mate, the magic round is done and doosted. How was it?
It's great, mate. We're up at the Caxton for most of it. As a New South Welshman, you hear all these stories about the Caxton, and I just kept thinking, it can't be that good. It was better. It was heaps better. It was unbelievable. We just don't have anything even close to that in Sydney.
Mate, it is fucking so good up there. Magic round. Like, you got to give the NRL, obviously, we give the NRL raps for it. Great round, such a good initiative. But the fans make magic round. It is such a bloody good weekend. And Caxton, and then you got the whole Caxton Street as well. But you're right, the Caxton Hotel, like, it is just, you got Fletch and Hindy sitting in that perfect. You got just, it's almost like, it's like Las Vegas for rugby league fans. Boom. There, I did it.
Mate, like, in the room that we were in, I don't know how many Alan Langers there are, but every time I turned around, he was fucking there. Every single time.
He's really got 6 twins. That's why he's fucking at every party.
It's unbelievable.
Mate, Timmy, how was your weekend, mate?
Yeah, look, I hate to admit it, mate, but occasionally Queenslanders get something right, and Magic Round was something special. We had one of the best weekends of my life, and part of my soul is entrenched at the Caxton Hotel. Like, I've come out of it sounding like Darren Lockyer, so I think that's probably why.
Do you play like him now as well?
Oh, yes, yeah. I'll tag tomorrow night, mate. Ask me that question on Wednesday.
Let us know.
It was far out. It's a good pub.
Oh, yeah,
I'd had a couple of beers there before, but never to that level. I went to the first Magic Round and second one since then, and just a cracking weekend.
And just you get to see Fletch and Hindy, and then Matty Johns might waltz on through. Alfie will be there. You just get to see the who's who of rugby. It is so fucking cool. Matty, what a weekend for Matty.
Oh, it was one of the great weekends. I remember last year going up for the first time, and it blew my socks off. So I was so excited pretty much all year, all season coming up to this weekend, and it absolutely delivered. It was so much fun. Thank you so much to the Caxton, Sterling, everyone for having us, because it could be the best weekend of the year. It really could be.
Yeah. Seriously, outside of Origin, it's my favourite weekend of the year for rugby league. Look, if my team makes the grand final, I'm going to say that. But most of the time, your team doesn't make the grand final. It is the best best weekend of the year. Massive thanks to Caxton Hotel. They're so they don't get enough raps for how much they offer Magic Round, because to have as many live events. You know, Fletch and Hindy, Matty Johns, Fox is there. They got other podcasts that are live there. Be able to host us there, which is so grateful to be able to do. So thank you to Caxton Hotel for that. And we're going to try to make it a yearly thing. And absolutely massive thank you to all of the Bloke community. It's just, when you see it in real life, you're like, how? How do this many people actually like us? It is bizarre.
Mate, the amount of jerseys getting around was
it blows
insane.
my mind.
I couldn't believe it.
It's just so humbling, guys. We're so grateful for everyone that turned up. And it was just so good. You get so proud to a degree when you, no dickheads.
Mate,
Not a
country
single
tours, Magic Round. We've met thousands of blokes in the last few months.
Not a single dickhead.
Not one dickhead.
And it's so it's almost statistically impossible. Seriously. So thank you so much to everyone that turned up. You made our weekend so special. We are so grateful for we're so grateful to be a part of this community. We're so grateful. And it's just fucking such a good time. And when you're walking down Caxton Street and everyone's vibe is good. And you know what else I love? Is it's becoming like almost a fashion week for blokes to bring out their old school jerseys. It's fucking sick, man. I love that shit.
As we left the game on Friday night, I think Tim had my favourite quote of the entire weekend. We're walking out of the stadium. I don't know, just spill some beer on your T-shirt or something. He looks at me and Matty and he goes, I only packed 2 shirts for Magic Round. And I left one of them at home.
Oh, Jesus. So, yeah,
tough.
incredible weekend. And as I said, massive congratulations to the NRL. But the fans make Magic Round, and the fans absolutely killed it this weekend. It was so good to be a part of.
My favourite one of the weekend was sitting there doing the meet and greet, all these legend fans coming through, and it was getting towards the end of it. And this Roosters fan comes in, just love bloke, such a legend. And we had us 4, and he was in the middle of us, just arms around each other, waiting for the photo tent. He goes, this is nice. This is really nice.
And also, what I loved about him as well, the first time he came through, just straight sledge, he was like, I thought you'd be bigger in person. Oh, mate. There were so many legends as well. Just all throughout the week, like when you're walking down and people stopping and saying hi, it's so good. For the next 2 weeks, Bloke Lager will be on promotion in all celebrations across New South Wales and Queensland. So get into your nearest celebrations and ask for Bloke Lager. That's right. Get into your local celebrations. Once again, I always say, guys, they're getting behind. They're such a huge... Celebrations are such a huge brand. Getting behind us by putting promos on. So get behind them. Get in your local independently owned, Australian-owned liquor store. That is Celebrations. Obviously 18 plus and drink responsibly, guys. But the next 2 weeks, Bloke Lager on special. It's time now, boys. Bit of accountability.
I don't keep track of these going like throughout the weekend, so it's always exciting when we get into it Monday morning.
Mate, I do so many podcasts, I forget who I tip sometimes. And I don't want to be... And so, like, I get a bit nervous and anxious about, like, the podcast towards the end of the week, because then you don't want to sound like a fraud that's like, well, how come you tipped them on Tuesday and then it changed by Friday? And it's like, yeah, but sometimes you might think about the game more, or...
How much changes between Monday and Friday? Like, for starters, teams drop Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. But... Anyway, time for accountability, brought to you by Sportsbet. As we said as well, guys, Sportsbet, we're up. The great Gurino wearing the shirt, the Tragic Round. A massive thank you to Sportsbet. It was so good to be a part of the Tragic Round jersey. And, guys, they're a partner with us. They're the best in the business. We all know they're the best in the business. If you love a punt, you use Sportsbet. Obviously, gamble responsibly. You win some, but you lose more. But let's get into accountability. Raiders defeat the Doggies. Everyone went Raiders. I went Bulldogs. We were robbed. Oh, one. Broncos defeat Manly. Everyone went Broncos. Panthers defeat Warriors. Everyone went Panthers, although there's a lot of chitter-chat around that game. Dolphins versus the Sharks. We all went Sharks. When are we going to start giving Dolphins some respect? Seriously, what is going on? South defeat the Storm. I went Storm. What? Did I really go Storm?
Yeah, so on Monday you went Storm, but then on Friday, by Friday you were South. But I'm going off what we said on... It was actually Sunday, because it was nosebleeds.
Does seem like something you do, to be fair.
What the hell? The whole week I'd been telling people I think Rabbitohs is going to be too much. You can even check the captain's run.
I'll double check. But
check that. I want some clarity on that. Okay. Nosebleeds, late in the show... You know, maybe I was just, my head was out of it.
It was like midnight, to be fair.
I love how a couple of weeks ago when Matty's tip changed from the Friday podcast that he did with you, it was counted, but when you do it, it's like, mate, you picked the Storm. You stick with it.
Mate, that is far out. That's frustrating. Because, that is fucking frustrating. Anyway, all right, all good. I'm getting towed up this weekend. One last week.
It would have made a huge difference to the result.
Tigers defeat the Dragons. What the?
Here comes another protest.
Here we go.
I fucking went Tigers. Oh, this is bizarre. I'm in fucking Spaceland. You know what's thrown me out is because we did the tips on Sunday. Because you go back and check the captain's run and our podcast. I'm pretty sure I said Tigers. Fuck.
Right, can you update him to 4 out of 8, Matty?
That is outrageous, mate. We are never doing a podcast on a Sunday night again. Never again. Holy shit. And what's funny is I said that spiel at the start about changing tips, not knowing that this had happened. I genuinely thought that mate, I got literally text messages from my mates going like that are South fans going, nah, they're going to have too many weapons. Oh, I tipped against Cam Smith. I was like, I think South's got too much weapons for Storm to handle. Anyway, hey, look, I got to cop it on the chin. Got it wrong. Cowboys defeat the Roosters. We all went Roosters. Matty went Cowboys.
Bullshit.
That's a bullshit.
That's a good tip.
That's a shit tip.
I was thinking good tip, shit bloke.
Titans defeat the Eels. I went Eels. Guru went Titans. Timmy went Eels. Matty went Eels. Oh, so who
Great
wins?
tip. Great bloke.
Matty and Guru tie this week. 6 each. 6 from 8. That is not bad with what happened.
I thought I went all right this week. 6 is hectic.
That's because, you got Tigers upset. You got
Dolphins upset.
Titans upset. Dolphins upset.
It's a good week of tipping.
Well, the entire Sunday
Storm
was
upset.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Storm went favourites. But Storm, fucking they're the Storm. Wow, that's a good week of tipping, boys. Well done. That is brought to you by Sportsbet. Thank you to guys and girls at Sportsbet. As I said, the best punting app in the country. You guys know this. Gamble responsibly. Head over. They've also got a share a bet, copy a bet feature. So basically, if your mate's got a bet that you want to get on, you just press one button. You can copy their bet. Now let's get into Team of the Week. And then after that, we'll get into Hungriest Player. Team of the Week at number 1. Had to go with Buller at the back there for the Tigers. That last ditch play sealed it for me. Sully's coming. He's ready. He's raring. He's ready to go. The game is on the line. Sully flicks it out the back. And then somehow Buller gets across to just completely throw his body at Ravalawa to win the game. So good. And I just hope that he gets a long enough time. Like, I hope that we don't see him play 3 or 4 good games. Then he has 2 or 3 average ones, and they go, oh, yeah, we're going to change our fullback again, Let's hope that he gets enough time to keep this spot and build some combinations. Number 2, David Nofwaluma. Number 3, Valence Tafade. Number 4, Matt Tomoko. Number 5, Selwyn Cobbo. 6, Cody Walker, with an honourable mention to Dylan Brown, who was absolutely outstanding. Number 7, Tanner Boyd or Isaiah Katoa. Which one do you reckon, boys?
I'm on Isaiah. I think what he did on the weekend to beat the Sharkies was incredible.
What do you reckon?
Well, I think I was in a different camp to everyone. I was on Sullivan.
You're on
Jayden
Sullivan?
Sullivan. Yeah, I was on and of those two, Boyd and Katoa. Initially, I thought Katoa. Then you mentioned the stat, Boyd kicked for 800 metres, something like, oh.
Yeah, in a game that needed it.
Yeah.
So, what do you reckon, Matty?
Yeah, it's tough. I think I'm leaning just towards Tanner Boyd. Just.
And I mean, Nathan Cleary unlucky to not be in the conversation too.
Well, if his name wasn't Nathan Cleary, he would be getting selected. But it's because
see you in the other 15 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. You could literally keep Cleary's name in there. He's always going to be in there. This is so tough because then you throw in Isaiah Katoa's age. You throw in the fact that he's in his 9th game of rugby league at Magic Round against the Sharks, who came 3rd last year, 3rd or 4th.
And have been firing.
And up against the Dally M7. Actually, you know what? When you put it like that, teenager against Nico Hines, who's been absolutely killing it, I think we've got to go Katoa. And I was Tanner Boyd initially.
Chuck it in the comments. Let us know who you reckon.
Yeah, let us know who you reckon. Have I convinced you, Timmy?
You have, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
The up against Nico
Seals
firing Sharks, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be it. What do you reckon, Matty?
It was a bee's dick in it for me anyway. So yeah, you're right. Up against the Sharkies, because to be honest, Sharkies were my only certainty of the week last week, and I got 6 out of 8, and that was one of them I got wrong. And I think a lot of people were in the same kind of boat. So yeah,
like he's playing his 10th game of first grade with his 3rd halves partner.
Yep.
Who's a utility.
And Jeremy Marshall King missed how many weeks? A couple, 2 or 3 weeks.
3, yeah.
It's pretty fucking amazing. Pretty fucking amazing. Okay, so Qatar it is. Number 8, Payne Haas. It's getting to the point where, like, he'll be getting into Cleary territory where it's like, unless he does something phenomenal, we'll just put someone else there because he is so good.
I think he's already there. He's just like copy-paste every week. So I was like,
seriously, yeah. You could have Cleary there every week. You could have Payne Haas every week. I think there was last week when we lost. I don't think we had him there. Actually, we didn't have a team of the week, but we were talking about it. And like Payne Haas might not have made the side, but if you actually looked at the performance, he probably should have. But because he lost, you're almost looking for reasons not to put them in the side. That's how good they are. He was phenomenal on the weekend.
He's also 3 points clear ahead of second best on the Dally M's, and out of everyone in the top 10, Harry Grant, besides Harry Grant, who's a hooker, is the only forward.
If you take his stats on a quiet night and give it to someone else,
it's a massive
probably
block.
make team of the week.
Yeah, well, look at like a Corey Horsburgh, and this is not to disrespect him because he's in this team, but I think he ran for about 180 metres, 30 tackles, and yeah, he may have had to ball play a little bit more, but like if Payne did that, you'd be like, oh, it's a quiet night.
Yeah. Payne goes for 180, you're disappointed.
Yeah, you're going, that's a bit of a
standard he sets.
which is fucking amazing. Okay, so we've got Payne Haas, Jeremy Marshall-King. I mean, what else is there to say about this guy? A few weeks ago, there were a couple of comments that felt that we were being a bit hyperbolic in regards to saying form-wise, he was in the top 5. Personally, I think you're crazy if you don't think form-wise he's in the top 5.
Undeniable. If you know what you're talking about, undeniable.
It's just, there's no way in the world you can't say Jeremy Marshall-King, form-wise, isn't in the top 5 hookers in the game right now. And it harkens back to that comment he made basically 18 months ago, saying he wanted to be a top 5 hooker, got literally laughed out of the room. That's incredible by Jeremy Marshall-King, but we'll get to it in the game. Number 10, Cotter. Holy shit. Number 11, David Fafita. Wow. Number 12, Jacob Preston. Wow. Number 13, Corey Horsburgh. It was between him and Paddy Carrigan, but I just thought the big red, he was just undeniable. He was going all day long, and far out he's hit some form. And, Ricky Stewart, I'm pretty sure it was Ricky Stewart, he said it right. There's good players, and then there's origin-made players, and the only reason Corey Horsburgh doesn't get a start this year in Queensland, it'll be because our forward pack is so fucking depth at the moment. Number 14, Dylan Brown. 15, Paddy Carrigan. Number 16, Fini Fueki. I hope I'm saying that right, but he actually came off the bench for the Cowboys, and I thought he was phenomenal. If you go and look at his stats, you're going to be like, yeah, it's not that crazy. But if you watch that game and see how much he impacted it in the small stint that he had, and it just shows you, once again, this Cowboys' ability to develop a back rower, far out. And then number 17, Spencer Lenu. Beast off the bench. Beast. Hungriest player of the week, brought to you by Menulog. It is Ruben Cotter. He scored the first try of the game. He made a line break, ran for 142 metres, made 36 of 37 tackles, so I only missed one tackle. He played 69 minutes of the game and was instrumental in the Cowboys' upset over the Roosters. Use the code COTTER as promo code and get free delivery when you spend 15 or more. KFC not included. Expires 15th of May. When you talk about rugby league, just battler, it's Cotter. He is a timeless player. And what I mean by timeless player, and I've said it before about him, any generation that was played, he would have thrived in.
Yep. He would have been as effective 100 years ago, and he'll be as effective in 100 years.
It is unbelievable. The tough nature of what he does and his ability to do it week in, week out. Like, we just accept he's a front rower now.
Yeah.
He's fucking tiny.
He was a Queensland hooker coming through.
Yeah.
He is not a big boy.
Now he's a Kangaroos front rower.
He's also a bloke who, there was that big torrential storm that came down before the game. Every time there's rain and it turns into a dogfight through the middle, he plays into Cotter's hands. This is where he thrives.
In a dogfight against Roosters, who arguably are the most aggressive pack in the comp. Like, we're talking your Radleys, your Hungriest, your Lodgers, Cheese, and this dog is going. He's almost like chomping at the bit, ready to get out there.
I remember at the start of last season when, he had hype and we were all excited about him, and people were saying, this means talent, and I was saying this as well, talent has to go into the front row because Ruben Cotter is more of a 13 body. It's not even a conversation anymore. It's not even in considerations. He is just an out-and-out front rower. At his size, it's crazy.
The toughness that he shows, because he'd be, 5'9", 5'10", probably 5'10",
Wouldn't be much more.
95 kilos maybe. In the front row, it's unheard of. Incredible stuff. So congratulations to Cotter. Use Cotter promo code, free delivery when you spend over $50 or more, $15 or more. You just only place not included is KFC. Expires 15th of May. Let's get into games, boys. Raiders defeat the Bulldogs 34-30. I think the score flatters the Dogs, but I do think that what I love about the Dogs this year is that they stay in every single game, regardless of if they're missing players or it's just not going their way or they're making dumb decisions. They stay in games, they hang in there. But the Raiders, once again, just a gutsy win. It is still a concern they're allowing teams back into the match. And I think that when you get up against the big dog sides, they'll make you pay. But at the end of the day, the Raiders right now, as we speak, they are sitting 9th. So equal on points, 9 points. Equal on points, 12 points. Now, look, what's crazy is 3rd through to 9th is all on 12 points. So they've won the same amount of games as the Panthers, which is crazy to think when you consider the Raiders' year. Let's say you just read their headlines and you sat back and you went, you read the headlines and you watched press conferences, but you didn't know the results of each game and you didn't watch the games. You'd think the Raiders are having a disastrous year, but they're not. They're battling. I'll go to you first, Timmy.
It was a carbon copy of last year, like the start of the season, wasn't it? The really slow start, then just started stringing them together. What's that? I think 4 on the trot now. And what's most exciting to me is, well, firstly, we were sitting there watching the game. We're at it live, and the Raiders got out to a bit of a lead at one point, and Matty goes, they're going to get away with this and put a score. And I'm like, the Raiders don't win by margins. It's always tight. Then the Doggies ground their way back into it. But 2 weeks on the trot, scoring 30-plus points. Speaking of dogfights, the Raiders love getting into a dogfight and gritting out a 16-14 win, that sort of thing. But I've sort of questioned at times whether we have the strike to put points on the board. So to go back-to-back weeks, 30-plus points, very good sign for us.
I think two reasons. Timoko, Corey Horsburgh. I think you finally found your 13.
Horsburgh has to stay there.
That's it.
They cannot
Leave him
possibly think about moving him.
Long term.
So impressed him. I look back to that. Was it the 2020 season he got injured?
Yeah.
I'm so confident he would have played Origin.
He would have,
yeah. And I reckon he would have stayed in that team. That injury has been so costly for him because right now he is playing well and truly good enough to be picked in the Origin arena. But, mate, as per usual, every single Queensland forward in the goddamn country has been on fire for the last month. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was the injury was just before Origin 1 from memory.
Against the Eels?
Yep.
The foot injury.
Combat.
Look, I don't want to jinx it, but the forward pack for the Queensland side right now is getting scary in regards to, a frothing Cotter, a frothing Carrigan, Fafita.
It's harder to pick who misses instead of who makes it.
Yeah, which is a couple of years ago, we could barely put a forward pack together. You got Lindsay Collins, you got Papali'i, you got Christian Welsh.
I reckon Mo Fodawaker's playing the best footy he's ever played right
Fodawaker, 100%.
Tino.
So it's going to be interesting to see who makes weight. Kafusi, obviously. So hopefully we can keep this form up, though. I'm not sitting here saying, I still think that the forward packs are probably equal on paper. But it's been a few years where you could say that, in my opinion. But let's get to the Raiders first, then we'll get to the Doggies. As I said, hasn't Timoko... I remember a few years ago, Guru, this is before I think he'd played much footy, much NRL, and you had got mail that he had basically got that spot no matter what. And I think it was Croker that was... It was Croker that was maybe making way or was under pressure or something. Anyway, it was about 18 months ago.
I got it off a real ugly, annoying mate.
Oh, that was your mail. Well, fuck, there you go.
It was about the start of last year, wasn't it? You were asking for a draft site. Supercoach draft.
Yeah.
Are you like, is he cemented or what? I'm like, he's cemented every 2 days leading into the season. Are you sure?
Well, you know probably where that came from, me. Because I was going I thought he'd play well in the games he played, but to cement a spot, that's pretty hectic. But I think we're starting to see why he had cemented the spot 18 months ago.
We said it 3 or 4 weeks ago, and every week I feel more confident saying he's a strike centre in rugby league. He's an absolute gun. If he wasn't playing for Canberra, if he was playing for one of the big Sydney sides, he would have so much attention around him.
Oh, 100%.
Like, he gets so many limited opportunities in games, but he takes all of them. And it comes back to, was it the semi-final last year where he took on Munster one-on-one? He almost put him in the grandstand.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a good player.
How well did he, like, again, watching, like I've seen Matty play a lot, but this could be the best I've ever seen him. How well did he move? Like, he had a one-on-one there at one point, and just like in and away, bang, see ya. His movement, quick enough, he's so strong. We know that.
So
he's
strong.
like...
And it's a blueprint of great centres that they can beat you in so many ways. He's got everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point
Yeah.
too. Like, it's not just a in and away. It's not just a flick pass or a right foot. It's like genuinely, I'll run over ya, I'll in and away ya, I'll right foot ya or left foot ya, I'll fend ya, or I'll have soft hands.
Yeah.
And then you look at his defence and you're like, and he's defensively sound. It's almost that curse of the Origin arena, because he's a Kiwi, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like if he could play Origin, then his name's in the paper more because he's a smoky,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and you get more. But at the moment, he's just flying under the radar.
You talked about his defence too. Like, from memory, he was the one that cost you against the Dolphins. Came with a poor read on that last play, didn't he? You could see how devastated he was by that.
Put that game out of my memory, so I can't help you. Sorry, mate.
But since then, he has. I don't recall a poor defensive read or a poor defensive moment.
As a centre, 93.1% tackle efficiency, which is probably the best in the game. If not, as in the best in the game for a centre. 93.1% tackle efficiency as a centre is almost otherworldly.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to not miss tackles out at centre?
He's making one-on-ones all day.
all day long, and you've got to choose to jam in. So when you're screaming in, you've got less time to make decisions. So Timoko is just so good to watch. Is this career? Oh, I was going to say, I thought he had 12 tries this year, but he's got 3 tries, 4 try assists, 6 line break assists, averaging 162 metres from centre. Yeah. From centre, and then obviously with a 93.1% tackle efficiency. And you're not hearing him being talked about in the top tier centres. But when you talk about form centres of the competition, Timoko is one of them, but period. And I think that you'd be crazy not to say that he's one of the form centres of the competition right now.
And I don't know exactly, I could be wrong, Tim, but he started last year at left centre, then they moved him to right. So I don't even know if he's on his preferred side.
Oh, that is fucking scary. That is actually fucking scary. If he's on his bad side doing this, jeez Louise. But as I said, so walk us through, because when Guru told me about the male, he's locked in, I wasn't against it, but I was always like, that's not what happens in NRL squads usually, when you play 4 or 5 games and then the next year the coach goes, nah, locked in the preseason. But the raps they must have had on this kid must have been huge.
Just killed it every opportunity that he got. And I think you mentioned around the time Croke had a lot of injury troubles. Seb Chris, who's become such a stalwart of this Raiders side, he was fringy at the time. He's been in and out a little bit, really cemented his spot in the side this year and even the back end of last year. But, Seb Chris also, might have been the year before, might have been 2021 or 2020.
2020, I think it was.
2020 had the whole season out.
Because he went home because COVID or something like that?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of personal stuff
Yeah,
going on, and he was sort of getting himself right, so he wasn't around the scene, and Matty just took the opportunity with a weakened Raiders centre spot to took it on his own and killed it. So didn't give him a choice, and you can see why now. So
good. Our man, Rapana, 2 tries. Love it. Absolutely love it. I love watching him play, man. Because he's we always talk about it on the podcast where I can't cop players not having a dig and making mistakes. Kills me. But if a player is constantly having a dig and he might hit a bit of a bad batch of form, let's say he has 3 or 4 games where you're going, Raps, come on, bros, please. Because Rapana is trying his heart out in every match, I think most Raiders fans and footy fans go, oh, that's just Raps, he's just ripping in. It'll come good. And it always comes good with him. It always comes good with him. And I think he's playing great footy.
If you're a winger opposing him, I imagine every winger would spend every week with a check sheet of certain things you have to watch from your opposing winger. What do you do to prepare for a
He goes all day.
He'd say write down your list of things and then prepare for the opposite, because that's what he'll give you.
He went over a couple of years ago and signed the big Japanese rugby deal, start of COVID. Got over there, didn't play a game because COVID hit. Hardly had a preseason or anything because of for that reason. Came back, signed with the Raiders a bit further down the track, and came back really started slow. Wasn't damaging with the ball at all, which is the story of his career. And you're going, he's getting older. Went over to Japan for a little bit. Didn't happen for him. Is he done? And he's just like, nah. He's just going and going and going. It's just getting that match fitness back.
Yeah. I thought there was no way him coming back from Japan that he would, at that age, be able to fight his way back into an already position where you guys have some good young guys coming through. Like, are they going to hit their straps straight away? No, but like you got Harley Smith-Shields and you've got obviously Chris, you've got Timoko, Savage coming through. So it's not like you didn't have outside backs. Then you've even got the guy with the headgear. I forgot his name. He's played Schiller. So it's not like you don't have anyone. But for him to play so well that not only did he get his spot back, he is the number one winger at that in that team right now.
And what's really good for the Raids at the moment is on that, and it's something we've always had, but again, probably because we don't attract big names, it means we do generally have pretty good depth across the board. Corey Howard and Naira played reserve grade on the weekend. Albert Hopewade, I saw a quote, missed the game on the weekend because of his sister's wedding or something like that. And there's a quote from Ricky saying, he's playing too good that he hasn't dropped out of our side, so the spot will be there when he gets back. So now they've brought Savage back in, on the wing, obviously.
Yeah.
Initially, when this sort of all happened and we knew Savage was coming back, I'm like, all right, Seb Chris probably goes to centre in place of Croak even after the first win or two, and Xavier goes to fullback. All of a sudden now you're going, Croak's 4 from 4, you cannot drop him. Xavier came back on the wing. Ricky obviously loves Hopewade and what he's been doing. So Hopewade probably comes back in for Xavier Savage. The other one I was thinking, like, if Xavier comes back at fullback, does Seb Chris move and play on the wing, keep his yardage, his carries and all that to be still effective? We've got such good depth and players are fit. Fortunes have turned pretty quickly.
Tarpanet thought he was solid again up front. Probably isn't at his barnstorming best yet, but it's almost like I actually like that because once he does start hitting his straps, like you're already putting wins together and basically sitting inside the 8 in regards to if one of the top from 4 down or 3 down have a loss and you win, boom, you're straight in the 8. Yeah. And so if you're getting these wins without him barnstorming, without Papali'i, when they do start to hit their straps, far out.
And Ricky always does this with his strike forwards. He sort of plays the long game with him. He did it throughout Josh Papali'i's career and even Taps last year. Opened the year up playing 45 to 50 minutes. Yep. And as the season went on, and he always did with Papali'i, he'd build him up. And then sort of by mid-season to, around 16 to 20, he'd start playing those 55 to 60 minutes, and that's when they go whack.
Yeah.
It's a long year ahead. Don't break him early.
Hudson Young, once again, another solid game. But, yeah, look, I got to admit, would have been like 3 weeks ago, I think me and you, Guru, before the show, we sat down and you asked me, what do you reckon about the Raiders? And I said, I don't think they can make the 8. I just thought, well, first of all, I thought the Cowboys would turn it around. I thought the Sharkies would be more consistent. And I just thought the Broncos would take that spot off them. But now, I'm not so sure.
Which at the same time, that thought process that you had, I had, that's exactly where Ricky wants us.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a great
Shout
point.
out to Zach Wolford. Wasn't picked in the first 4 weeks. He's come back, came off the bench week 1 against Newcastle. They lost that. He then started the next game and they've won 4 from 5.
And you know what? Did the same last year when he came in about mid-season. I can't remember exactly, but maybe about around 10 or 11. They were on this massive winning streak. So it's one of the ones where you sit there and go, he's not a superstar. He doesn't stand out on the field, but the Raiders are getting results with him, aren't they?
100%. He's a classic example of he only plays 20 minutes, but if you win that first 25 minutes, it takes you a long way.
Well, it's similar to what Penrith tried to do with Mitch Kenny and Api Korosia. Just like, look, let's just be strong this first 20, good, solid. We get the firing hooker on it around the 20-minute mark to get the points on the board when the game's a bit looser.
And for those that are new to the podcast or don't know Zach Wolford, he was playing 2nd and 3rd grade rugby union 2 years ago. Career was done and dusted.
Working for Snowden horse racing in the stables and doing stuff with them.
No way. Yeah, good. Awesome. I love those kind of stories. So Raiders fans, good win, and you're almost like you're definitely out of the teams that have the same points in the 8. I do think the Raiders are flying under the radar probably the most. Like, as I said, if you just read the headlines and you didn't watch the results and you didn't watch the games or whatever, you'd think that the Raiders are in probably 14th right now.
14th, right now. 14th.
Right now. 14th. 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 sitting ninth, equal third, which is crazy. Crazy to think they've won the same amount of games as the Panthers. You know,
It is.
And like I'm sure that people say, oh, well, their draw hasn't been as hard or something like that, and whatever. But you can only play what's in front of you. And also, I tell you what, Raiders fans, you know better than anyone. You were in a way worse position this time last year than you're in right now.
Yeah.
Last year, you'd fucking won 2 from your first 8 or something.
Yeah.
Now you're sitting pretty ready to go. And it's all about, the more I like do media and content around rugby league, far out that first 10 weeks is importance. If you drop the ball too much in that first 10 weeks, your whole season's ruined because you're just chasing points.
And also not going to be overly impacted around Origin time.
Yeah.
There's Josh Papali'i who'll probably be off the bench for the Maroons.
Yeah.
Papa, Jackie White will be fresh now for it all.
Yeah.
So Hutto Young might sneak into the Blues, but we've looking all right.
Well, I mean, when you've got Corey Hutto and Ida to come in,
Yeah.
you're pretty good depth-wise there.
Yeah. And as for, the people that make the argument about the easy draw and whatnot, there is never an easy game in the NRL, and there sure as fuck isn't an easy game this year.
I'll say
Yeah,
this
not
year
this
more
year.
than ever,
Yeah.
eh?
2 weeks ago, I would have said to you there isn't an easy game unless you got the Tigers. They've beaten Penrith
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
It's
There is
crazy.
no easy game.
So great stuff for the Raiders. They've really set themselves up in a much stronger position than they did last year. And last year they went on a run and, had a lot of teams like, oh, shit, like we might have to worry about the Raiders. Now let's get on to the Doggies. Oh, man, just really silly decisions at certain points of the game hurt them. But it's hard to be too critical of this Doggy side because of the amount of injuries that they've had, the lack of time they've had together when it comes to pairings. So, I mean, we've got to be critical because they didn't play their best rugby league. But the game ended up 34-30. I will say the one bit that I was a bit surprised at, I felt in crucial times at the end of the game, whether it was he didn't call for enough or whether the team wasn't aware of it or whether someone was calling overs calls, I think the ball should have been getting to Matty Burton's hands more than it was. Yep. Look, I love a young fella in Oluwapu coming on and confident as anything. I love that. I really do. But there's a time and a place. And I think the game was kind of in the balance and he did, I think, 2 chip chases. And it's look, you see the benefit of it. Look at Reece Walsh. Look what Reece Walsh is doing right now. That's the benefit of it. So that's what we'll see from Oluwapu. Eventually, that chip chase will come off and we'll all call him a superstar. But I do think, so I actually don't think it's his fault that he was getting the ball. It's more Reed Marnie and Burton's fault. They're the ones that should be saying, no, the ball comes this way. Oluwapu, get on the edge. You're the tip of the spear. Wear the spear. That's if I'm being super critical of the Doggies because it's hard to be critical.
They are in a tough spot though when you're the hardest thing about Carl is that he's too talented not to be there, but he has to make these mistakes to learn, and they're trying to balance it out with obviously starting Josh Reynolds, moving him in and whatnot. I would imagine that Birdo would also, he'd want to give the kid some ball and some confidence as well. So it's a tough balancing act, and I reckon that Canterbury is. I don't think there's any argument that they've been incredibly unlucky this year with their injuries and everything. It's been brutal, and I just think that they're going, fuck. Whilst it's raining, we're just going to take this opportunity to blood this kid. Go through the pain now.
I love it. I mean, I'd go as far to say I think Carl Oluwapu should be wearing the 6 jersey within 2 to 3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Because the thing is when you watch him play, you're not sitting there going, "Oh, this guy isn't ready for first grade." It's just these little moments. And as I said, I don't blame him for those moments. I say Reed Marnie and Matty Burton, you are the senior players.
Yep.
You should be putting Carl in a position to break the game open rather than him trying to break the game open. So it's definitely not a knock on Carl Oluwapu at all. It's more just, if you have to be super critical about the moments that happened, that was the moments where I was like, I think Matty Burton and Reed needed to be a bit more senior and just go.
And I think similar to Reece Walsh, the example you used the Warriors last year, sometimes I felt Reece Walsh was taking on too much.
Yeah.
Trying to be the guy too much. But I think now you see that he's in a good system and whatnot. That's getting on the front foot. You see the advantage of that. I think Carl's a very similar guy.
100%.
You got to remember as well with Carl, I know we all understand he's young and everything, but just remember, he's only played 6 games in New South Wales Cup. So
mate, he's incredible. I am shocked at how physically ready he is.
Yeah.
I couldn't, when he made his debut, I couldn't believe how much it didn't look like a 17, 18, 19-year-old on the field. Like usually, you can see in the contact here, it's a bit like, couldn't see that with him. Yeah. He is going to be something.
He's a beast. And you look at something I come back to all the time, but combinations. Look how hard this is for the doggies at the moment. You've got Matty Burton, who hadn't played with Josh Reynolds before. Flano's obviously out of the side now. Then they get an 18-year-old in Carl Oluwapu, who would have run the show his entire life in the junior grades.
Yeah.
He comes in, new halves partner mid-game, and then they've got Reid Marnie, who is also come from another club. So it's like 4 blokes trying to intertwine, and then Hayes Perham at the back.
Yeah.
So
and a bunch of injuries in the forwards.
Exactly right. So they've had so many things go against them, and to have all that and still put 30 points on the Raiders, who traditionally are a pretty good defensive outfit. There's still so many good signs.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I said from the top, it's hard to be critical of the Bulldogs when you really have a look at what is going on there at the moment. Like, they put 30 points on a Raiders side after put it this way, this Bulldogs side 2 years ago, if the Raiders get out to that start, there is no way in hell they're coming back like that.
And I think that's the beauty that Canterbury fans need to look at, that despite you not winning a stack of games right now, if you put this Canterbury side against any Canterbury side of the last 2 years, I reckon they absolutely give it to them.
Yeah. You're totally right, Guru. Don't focus too much on where you are at the ladder. No one, I know a lot of, and they still might make the 8 because it's such a congested field, but I know there's a lot of Bulldogs fans that would have been hopeful with all these signings. We'll make the 8 first year, but I promise you, when it clicks, it is going to be a scary, scary beast. When you have your full 17 on the field with games under their belt together, they are building something nicely there. I promise you that. I mean, look at Preston, for example.
Well, you look at Preston, for example. Most people didn't know who he was in the preseason. He then came on and exploded. They've had to move him from right side to left side because they've had to play Corey Riddell in the side, who just fits on that edge better. So, and as you said, just a bit of pain now. I look at Canberra and I go, they've got their hooker, 5'8" and halfback for a decade now.
Put it this way, I'd rather be in the Dogs position than the Dragons position.
And the guy you're getting at fullback, there's a couple of question marks about him as a 1, but name a player in our game that is still playing right now that has come up with more bigger plays than Stephen Crichton.
Yeah, you got Critter to come. So I know it's a bit painful as Doggies fans, and you look at the ladder and you go, we're sitting 15th, but decimated by injury. You've got a 6 that's moved into 7. You've got a teenager coming off the bench. You've got a Reynolds who is 34, 35, that's come back from overseas. I really don't think it's time to stress. I don't think it's time to panic. Stay confident in what they're doing, because I think they're building something pretty special.
Remember how devastating it was in the preseason when Luke Thompson got injured? I haven't heard his name be said in the last 6 weeks. His injury is so far off coming back that people almost forget that he's still to come back.
Yeah, exactly. And
Chris Patolo's next week or next probably 2 weeks, who I know we've only seen bits and pieces of him, but they love him at the club. They've got such high regard for him, so really keen to see him get back, and it'll help a lot.
And you could. There's a world where Critter plays 1. Hayes Perham could end up on the wing. I could see him working at wing, being almost like a Brian To'o kind of heaps of hit-ups. Not obviously Brian To'o is in his own league, but just heaps of hit-ups, great footwork, really strong. We know he's good under the high ball. Crossfield kicks. We'll see how he goes in regards to getting up against. But does Bizza have a problem with that? No. So I could see him on the wing.
And they've already got a Brian To'o in Kiros.
Yeah, Kiros. I love Kiros. So we'll talk about Jacob Preston. Holy heckers. He has just come out of absolute... I thought that he'd come off the bench, show some talent and some excitement, and you'd all be sitting there going, okay, we've got this guy for the future. He's nearly already there in regards to the standard he needs to be at, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah, obviously playing for the Bears last year, and the Roosters don't whiff on too many. And for him to walk out of this system and do what he's done,
surprising.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You do not see it very often.
And I guess it's a wrap to Ciraldo's ability to coach, is when you get a guy that's in a system where, they are kings at picking, this guy should stay, this guy should stay. And they go, we don't need to keep this guy. Comes across to the Doggies and top 5 form back rowers at the moment. Top 10,
awesome.
Top 10 maybe, even if it's top 10.
Keep in mind, in a pack that's decimated, and this bloke in his first season in the NRL is stepping up and being outstanding all season.
Yeah. And so if you said, okay, right now, purely on form, he's in the top 10 back rowers, it's not bad.
I'd love to know when he left the Roosters why they made that decision. Like the Roosters don't make random decisions. There would have been a reason. There would have been reasons they told him, and he's obviously gone away and worked on it. I'd love to know what
The story was.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just chockers for...
Maybe.
Or maybe they did want to keep him, but they didn't have spots in their top squad.
But I mean, like when he signed with Canterbury, I didn't look and go, oh, there's a spot there for him.
But often the way you get players like him across is by saying, we promise you a first grade top 30 spot.
Yeah, fair.
And they go, okay, sweet, security, I know I'm going to be in the first grade. Whereas Roosters might have been like, oh, you can come train with us, but we've already filled our top 30.
Fair.
That may have happened. Maybe they just missed it. I mean, every single club has missed. I think
he just seems to be a good bloke too.
Yeah, I know. Great haircut too. I think the only club that has never missed is probably the Storm. You go.
I was going to say, look at the Roosters. They have so many edge back rowers.
Yeah.
Both the Butcher boys, Tupanua and Crichton, a lot of edges. So maybe they were just like, we just don't have a spot for you.
I want to shout out to my boy Jake Averillo. Mate, you look at the size of him, you go, where does he fit? I know that we were quite bullish on the fact that he wasn't a half. Probably wasn't even like... We thought that if you were going to start putting him at fullback, put him there early to build the combinations. But centre was probably where we thought he would end up. But geez, I didn't think he'd have this much impact this quickly at centre.
And you know what? I even at centre, I watch him. I'm like, is he a centre?
Yeah.
I don't even know what Jake Averillo. And to be honest, I don't know if Jake Averillo knows what he is. I think he can do so many things at such a high click. Because I mean, even when he was playing halfback, like he wasn't the answer, but he wasn't dreadful.
No. I was also going to say, like, when he was played at fullback and played in the halves, it was with the Dogs side that, let's be realistic, weren't offering a lot at all. Yeah. If you throw him into that spot now, particularly when they get their full strength pack back, maybe it could be his spot.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at him and you go, he actually, if you had to just go, you haven't seen him play, but you can see him train and everything, he probably suits a modern 6 because he can ball play, great ball runner. But I think he's doing a fantastic job out in the centres. And I love this Kiraz Averillo combination. As I said, they're like almost like the odd ones. You just you go to these other team sheets and you go, oh, that centre wing combination, like shit, like we don't have to worry about that. Whereas like you go to Averillo and Kiraz, they don't have the biggest names, so a lot of people just underestimate them. And every single time they impact games.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
No, you go.
And a coach's dream in that every coach loves like the value of just a utility you can put in anywhere at any stage. When you're picking your team for that week, particularly when you're picking your bench and you go, oh shit, if this person goes down, we don't have a fullback or
good point.
We don't have a hooker or this or that. Like to have someone in your starting 13 that there's any injury in the back from 1 to 7, he can slot in there and do a job seamlessly. It's so valuable.
And not only is he in your starting 17, he's good in it. You know how some people are like, they're there just because of their utility, and you're like, he does a job for us and he's there because he can cover. No, he's actually playing mad at centre.
Yeah, like if you're injured or anything this Canterbury side and he fills in for you, you're nervous.
I can oath. Like, yeah, if you put it this way, like Hayes gets injured or whatever and he goes back there, definitely could see him killing it.
If you give him 3 weeks in any spot, he can impress there.
I got to say, Hayes' Perham's been winning me over.
He has, yeah.
He's been winning me over. Look, is his ball playing the best? No, but I just love how hard he goes. Yeah. Every game, he is ripping and tearing. He doesn't let his teammates down ever. There's never a game where I go, oh, fuck. Hayes just stood out the back and bloody did nothing.
And that's what, like, I remember in the All-Stars game, he threw a couple of woeful passes all over the place, but we said then, like, he's a goer, though.
He's a goer.
You can tell he has a crack.
Yeah, I love it, mate. I love those kind of players. And who maybe he does work on his ball playing, and maybe Critter does go in the centre or something like that. You know, we don't know how it all end up. Like,
and the fact they've got options says it all.
Exactly. So don't be too stressed out, Doggies fans. I know on the table it doesn't look great, but there's something brewing there. I promise you that. Now, on to the next game. Before we get there, though, 9 Now stream live NRL games for free on 9 Now. This week, 9 are starting with Storm vs Broncos on Thursday, down in Melbourne, which will obviously be a huge game. Friday, they've got another big clash. Panthers hosting the Roosters. Then Sunday, Arvo, we have 2 teams trying to bounce back. Manly playing the Sharks. The biggest games and the best commentary for free. Get on and stream it now, anywhere, anytime. And look, I'll be honest, the 9 this week, I had some buffering issues. Closed my Explorer and opened it again. Boom, sweet, all sorted. And also the app that I was using on my phone, no issues whatsoever. So they really are. It's a really good service, guys. Yeah, as I said, I'll always be honest. Had some issues with some buffering for a little bit. Closed the browser, opened it back up. There was no issues after that, and the app on my phone was working seamlessly. So make sure, live and free, 9 now. Download the app, support them because they support us, guys. Let's go and get on to Brisbane Broncos defeat the Manly Sea Eagles 32-6. I got to say, now people are going to think this is my favourite win of the season because it's against Manly, the Hello Sport boys. That's absolutely not the reason why. This is the closest thing to an 80-minute performance that I've seen the Broncos put on. And even when things weren't really gelling for them in our second half, I loved their defence. I loved the fact they stayed in the game. They didn't allow Manly back into it. They controlled the whole game. It was just a total controlled game where they controlled the pace of the game. They controlled the aggressive nature of the game. They controlled everything, field position. This, to me, was probably their most complete performance of the year. I absolutely loved it. What do you reckon, Guru?
Yeah, I thought Brisbane were very impressive. I thought Manly were the complete opposite, to be honest. I was very disappointed with Manly's performance, but Brisbane were fantastic, mate. I've been lucky enough to watch Selwyn Cobbo play twice so far. The first time was Origin, where he kicked back inside for Gagai, and I saw that and went, and I'll be honest, I've always looked at him and gone, God, he's got so many errors in his game. This is so frustrating. But on that Origin night, when I saw him put that kick in, I thought, okay, I see it now. I see why these guys know that this kid's so special. I don't know if it was the angle we were sitting on the other night. Where was it? When he hit that intercept up, glided across to catch it before it went out and then take it all the way, he is just a freak, an absolute freak. And as I said, I've only been able to watch him twice, and on both nights he's done things that I've thought no one else could have done that. He's just freakish.
And it's one of those things where, look, when he makes 6 errors, you go, bruh, it's just too much. But what I do love about Selwyn is that he still gets through the tough stuff. Yep. He doesn't go out and sulk and go, oh, well, I didn't get... Because, like, right now, even though on the weekend he was a superstar and, we all loved watching it, but there's a lot of young kids that after Reece Walsh gets signed, he starts sooking and asking for a release and wants to bounce. There is a lot of young kids that would have half of Selwyn's talent that would go out on the wing, sook, kick stones, I'm supposed to be fullback, I'm the next big thing in the NRL. And he hasn't done that in my opinion. I think that there's been games where he's a little bit quiet, but he's never shirked his duty. There's never a game that I watch Selwyn and go, oh, he's not taking the tough carries. He just doesn't want a bar of it. There are games where he's lacked concentration, made a bad read in defence, for sure. But as I said, I just love the fact that he just keeps taking the tough carries. And as long as he keeps himself engaged in the game, he's going to have moments like this.
Yeah, and it was only 18 months ago he was man of the match in the Queensland Cup Grand Final at fullback, killed it. And everyone was saying he's the next Broncos fullback.
Yeah, yep.
Now no one's saying that realistically because Reece Walsh is doing so well. And you're right, mate. You haven't heard any complaints, anything. It hasn't shown in his game at all. I've been really impressed with him this year.
Yeah, I just, as I said, still has brain explosion, still lacks concentration, but his attitude towards ripping in is there, and that's all I care about. It's honestly all I care about.
Speaking of, you mentioned sitting there, seeing the brilliance of Cobbo live, we had the coolest view at Suncorp. I mean, every view at Suncorp, to be fair, is good, but we were end on, and you just see the game unfold so well. Everyone always says, on halfway, midway back, best position in the ground, you're sort of close enough to everything. Just being end on, it's particularly as someone who likes to look at the game strategically, how it unfolds, you see everything.
It's a game of chess.
Yeah, it's a game of chess. Reece Walsh, I think it's probably the first time I've seen him play live.
Quick, eh?
Yeah, and just they'd have man on man, it might be a 4-on-4 or 5-on-5, whatever. Every time I went out to the back, effortlessly, he'd create a number just with his speed. And we knew it, but to see it unfold from directly behind it in a red-hot Brisbane side, I was like,
It's
this
you know what
too.
it's like? It's like the experience that I had when I was playing reserve grade for Broncos, for Clydesdales. Went up to Dairy Farmers, and it was the first time I'd ever seen, and we were warming up, or even just standing, maybe warming up, not sure, behind the goalpost, and I saw Matty Bowen live.
Yeah.
And just seeing the way they move across the field. Like, if you can, I know rugby league is such a good game to watch on TV because you get a closer angle of the contact, but if you can get out to see one of these superstars in action, you'll get a real appreciation for how incredible these guys are.
The thing that stood out for me with Reece Walsh watching his live was, as you said, they'd be lined up on one side, they'd be manned up, he'd be on the other side, and then he'd swing around. Even the pace that he just covers ground just to get himself into position.
So when he does that arc, he just gets quicker and quicker.
He just gets quicker and quicker, and it gives you your entire defensive line a split second to go, fuck, he's here and he's flying.
Yeah.
We've all got to react now.
Yeah. 13 tackle breaks. He's tiny. I mean, he's not tiny, like he's probably just a little bit shorter than me, but like physically, he's not the biggest guy.
Speed's power.
And he's just, and I love, like, he's brave, he's gutsy. Yeah, okay, he's still attack, and he'll, go for a big play. But, fuck, they're sitting on top of the table. It's very hard to complain.
Well, like any young fullback, mate, he's learning.
100%.
He'll make mistakes.
He'll know, and I do actually think that game by game, he's actually getting a little bit closer to knowing when it's right and when it's wrong. Like, because it's hard for me to go, like, perfect example. Last week, I think, Stags, he did it a few times, and it was like, they must be getting directives from up above. And I think they actually are getting directives from up above to just attack, and trust their defence. But on the weekend, it's hard to be critical of Reece because he put that grubber through on, like, the second tackle, and it landed perfectly, and we scored a try. So it's like, I mean, we're on top of the table. Yeah, okay, when we play some of the big teams, we may get punished for it, but it'll come. It'll come.
And I think I'm guilty of it all the time when I watch Reece. A number of times this year I've sat there going, fuck, he's kick happy. Just loves to kick whenever. But if you're confident enough to do it and you back yourself in and you make it work, you might not get it right every single time, but you've also got to remember the defensive side is going, fuck, he could do it now.
Yeah.
He could do it whenever. It's a hard balance to find, but I think he's starting to get it more right than wrong, for sure.
I do think as well, a key ingredient in all this is, like, if the team has agreed that will allow Reece to be like this, then I think it's fine. Whereas it's when the team is saying, fuck me, Reece, like, stop doing that, that's when it becomes a problem. But if you've got leaders like Paddy that are sitting the forwards down and going, boys, we've got this absolute live wire behind us at the fullback. He's going to make some errors. Don't get into him because for every one he makes, he's going to give us 2 tries. If that's what's happening internally at the Broncos, then that's great. Then that's when you know everyone's on board on the same page. It's when you start getting forwards that are sitting there going, mate, I just worked my butt off and you just did that fucking kick for no reason. And it seems like the Broncos are all on board with this attack mentality.
I am so excited to watch the next 2 weeks. Obviously played South Sydney a couple of weeks ago. Got beat well and truly there. But there's the argument, no Payne Haas, no Ezra Mam. Beat Manly the other night. I thought Manly were atrocious in that game. They go Melbourne into Penrith the next 2 weeks.
This shapes their whole season.
Yep.
This shapes their whole season.
Even after that, you go to New Zealand and play the Warriors, and you got the Sharks. Like, the next 4 weeks are big.
New Zealand with a stack out, and the Kiwis will be full strength, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And so what I love about this performance is, like, I personally think it's their most well-rounded performance of the season for 80 minutes. It's good to get that confidence heading into such huge clashes. Now, if we get beaten by a couple points by the Storm and by Penrith, I can live with that. Like, because we're still a young side on the up. But I think it is season defining the next 4 weeks.
And Reece Walsh, that exact man, he's a star. He could become a superstar. He's not quite there yet, but you're going into these 2 unbelievably difficult games on the road. I don't want to see him be a flat track bully. And when the going's good, you're scoring 3 tries and setting up 4 tries and whatnot. This is where the goings get tough. This is where your team needs you to stand up. I want to see him have 2 big weeks.
You know what? I tell you what else is on the line right now. If he goes to these big games and goes quiet, I guarantee he doesn't get selected for Queensland.
Yep.
Because they'll be watching like a hawk going, these are the games where we need to see. You don't have to kill it. You don't have to score 3 tries or set 3 up. But as long as you're having 20 runs, ripping and a tearing, we know you can trust you in Origin Series. But you're right.
Not making errors, all that sort of stuff.
But if he goes there and he just goes completely quiet, it's like, mate, well, how can you go in the Origin arena And
He'll be watching it closely, and so will Kalen Ponga.
yeah, bloody oath.
And like the whole like when you use those words, flat track, downhill skis, whatever it might be, like there's an argument there from this season. So they've got to stand and deliver over the next 2 weeks.
When you look at their draw and like they were playing teams that were in the 8 or currently in the 8, but when you actually have watched those games, you could say that the score flattered the Broncos or this, that, whatever. I just think that these next month of footy, especially these next 2 weeks, we don't have to win them, but if we just show we are on that standard, I just think it'll be such a confidence-building exercise.
I also don't think it's about proving it to us. It's about proving it to themselves.
Yeah,
so they can
because
do it.
I think everyone in the NRL agrees that they can be on that level. I think we all agree there.
Yeah.
It'll just be nice to see the Broncos play their only 2 games of 2023 outside of Queensland.
Hey, listen, mate.
See how they go.
I'll have you know there's a reason for that. And there's some conflicting schedules in regards to World Cups. And we want to play on the road, mate. We don't like playing at Suncorp. We do it for the betterment of the NRL. It is pretty fucking hectic, though. Like, meanwhile, the Warriors are getting 3 games in fucking 11 days. Like, the Warriors, they already have essentially the longest travel outside of Townsville when they have to travel to maybe Melbourne. They already fucking spent 2 years out away from their country, and then they get pinged with 3 games in 11 days. What an think of the amount of people that went through the draw. How did not one person go, guys, this is outrageous. This is absolutely unfair on these boys and girls. Part of this is in the whole system of Warriors that are getting treated like this.
Not only how did they not get to the end of the draw and look at it, just when they started the draw, how did they not say, hey, we should probably keep in mind these guys have sacrificed their lives for the last 2 years?
Well, if you look at it, you go, I know they can't because obviously Queensland has 3 teams in it, but they should have got the luck or benefit or whatever the Broncos have. That should be the Warriors right now. We should be talking about the Warriors barely, travelling as much. I know it's a little bit different because obviously Queensland are, but I'm just saying that they should have been. We should have basically had people blowing up about the Warriors getting a favourable draw. I reckon anyway. But yeah, so the Broncos, Paddy Carrigan, fucking amazing. Their whole forward pack, they were just so committed. First half was about 91% completion rate. Second half dropped off a little bit, but as I said, I can't complain at all. And Jordan Ricky, you're not going to look at his stats and being blown away, but his kick pressure, that tackle he did on Tom Trbojevic, lift him up, put him that's not we're not talking about a Jaden Campbell or a Reece Walsh he's picking up. He's picking up Tom Trbojevic and dragging him back in. That's the shit I want to see. And I think we're just starting to see Jordan Ricky round his game out. The big stats will come. They'll come when you get the combinations all built, everything going well, they'll come. But I've liked Ricky's year. I really have. I think he's been great.
He's going to be a scary footballer when he's a complete footballer.
Yeah, when he
complete package,
sorts it out. Mate. And I just think that I've just loved his attitude, this year. And it's all the little things that you're not going to see on highlight reels. You're not going to see, him scoring 3 or 4 tries and cross-field bombs, whatever. And look, he's still got that little lair up here and there where he gets up and yells after a try, even though he actually stopped that. I've liked his attitude. Outside of the 1 or 2 little things where you're like, just stay focused, stay in the game.
And I think it is always the reality of it that because he's so talented, those little things frustrate you more than what they would with players that don't have his talent.
Ricky should be one of the best back rows in the comp.
Yep.
He's still so young. He's 22? I think he's 22 or so. So he's still younger than anything. But as I said, overall, I've liked Ricky's season. I really have. I think he's answered his critics the best way possible, and that's just ripping in. Sorry? 23. He's 23. So he's still relatively young for a back rower. And I thought his kick pressure on the weekend his kick pressure and kick chases have been outstanding this year. Anything else from the Broncos, boys?
No, good win by.
All good.
Yep.
On to Manly. Really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. To be honest, out of the whole team, Paseka came on at the end and was quite strong, but really the only player that I thought caused Broncos any kind of trouble whatsoever was Olakau'atu. I think that outside of that, for a club that at the start of the year looked like the dark horse of the comp, almost the darling of oh, wow, here we go. Super disappointing. Error after error after error. 65% completion rate. You're never going to put yourself in a position to win a game against a club like the Broncos, especially when they complete at 91% in the first half. Like, you know, basically, if Broncos had it completed the same as they did in the first half, the score's probably bloody 50-6. Yeah. It's only because the Broncos ended up completing it at 79%, so they clearly, second half, was dropped quite a few balls. You know, I've got to be critical, but I just thought Aloiai had a really poor game. And unfortunately, he must be struggling with an injury. Because after the poor error he made a few weeks ago where he came out, and I've had so much respect for him when he came out, he goes, I take full responsibility for that decision and what happened in the end of that game. And I still have heaps of respect for Josh Aloiai, and I still think he's a quality footy player. But I thought on the weekend he must have a wrist injury or something, because it's just uncharacteristic of Josh to have that many errors. What do you reckon, boys?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, mate, about Olakuatu. Outside of him, there just doesn't seem to be anything doing with their attack. I mean, I thought Kohler looked strong as well, but outside of those two, there's just nothing doing. I thought it was pretty evident that Turbo is so far from fully fit. It's crazy. Did you reckon he plays Origin?
Well, what I'm not getting is, like, why not just cop the first few weeks of him not playing to get him right?
Yeah,
it just doesn't make any sense to me. Is he overriding them? And if he is, then you're not doing your job.
Especially this is obviously just us assuming, just to eye test. He doesn't look right to me, and I feel like in the past I've watched Manly do this before, where they go, "No, we'll still put him out there," and it costs them seasons. I mean, like, I don't understand how they can keep putting him out there. And yeah, if he is, overriding them, whatever, club's got to be bigger. Club's got to make calls for the best of the club, and I don't think it's worthwhile having him out there at the moment.
Well, especially when you'd have to say every week he's not playing is a week his body is getting closer to being 100%. Whereas it feels like every week he plays, it's almost like this heart, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, how can his body be fully repairing when he's out playing every week?
It feels like he's doing them a favour by playing and being out there. And it's just, if he goes down, the house of cards falls apart.
But what's surprising to me is like, they've got KO Weeks, they've got Garrick, they won matches without him. They've got to find a way to, like, they can't just sit there and go, oh, well, we have to have Tom Trbojevic in or our season's over. They've got to get him at 100%.
Can't be the mentality.
It can't be the mentality, but it seems like that's the internal mentality of, like, we play Tom Trbojevic. If he can run, he's on the field. And of course Tom Trbojevic wants to play. Like, of course he does. But as I said, like, as a coaching staff, you've got to make some tough calls sometimes and say, mate, until you're 100%, not even 100%, like 90%. Like when Selwyn made that break, back, a couple of years ago, Tom might not have caught him.
Yep.
But I tell you, like, he looks super strained chasing Selwyn then. Super strained.
And that's the whole attitude. Like, if their attitude is that he has to be there for them to win, if anything, the last 2 weeks, because he's not going 100%, I think it's held Manly back to some extent.
Well, they're just in a weird mental spot. It's just a weird mental place to be in. Like, I don't know.
Just for context, so last year when he got injured, their next 6 games, they won 4 from 6 without him.
Yeah.
And then they lost, and then the whole Jersey shit happened.
Now, the only thing I can think of is, like, is the direction from this, guru, not the Gurino.
There's only one of us, thank you.
This hammy guru or whatever, is the directive of, like, change your running mechanic. And so he actually could stride out, but he's intentionally changing his running mechanic to try to get it to be that way. And in 6 weeks, we're going to see him hitting full flight with the new running mechanic. Is that what's happening?
I like that. That's been my theory the whole time, because the Stefano one the other week was the big one. There's been a few examples. There was earlier in the season when he got into clear space and just pulled himself up and just was like, I'm not taking off. There was Stefano the other day when he chased him down, and people saying he's clearly not right. I go down your avenue, Kempy, of the directive being, mate, we need you out here. Don't stride out to 100%. I don't think it's people saying, oh, he's fearful and he doesn't have the confidence to do it.
No, that's not Tommy.
No, but that's what everyone's been saying. I'm like, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's clearly had this directive to build it up. Do not push it. Do not get it into a 100% sprint. get your body up to where it needs to be, and then when it gets to the business end of the season, if you're in and around the 8 Manly, that's when Tommy goes 100%.
Yeah, it has to be. But then I go, okay, well, surely there's other ways for him to get used to that gait.
Yeah.
You know, like surely they can simulate games each weekend for him. They'd be able to simulate a game. I know when you're out there it's different, the contact, but surely they could create a more, like, they'd be having to pour so much resources into him. Like, get Rezzies there on a Friday or whatever and simulate a game for him to get... I'm not sure. I don't know. There's something... Clearly there is way more going on than we have access to, but do you pick him? Origin?
I wish his name wasn't Tom Trbojevic. I want to say yes just because of what he's done and what we know he's capable of, but watching him the other night live was a big eye-opener for me. Like, he is so far from sweet. And especially because you got guys like Campbell Graham and there's other guys that are going so well. I'm not sure if I would right now.
I said this on the SEN radio pot show on Saturday morning, I think it was. There's a difference between, like, some people go, oh, what happened to loyalty and what they've done for the shirt jersey, and, like, you know, you may bring in like a Nate Miles, for example, played, you know, not that great at club, would come into Origin, kill it. But there's a difference between being at 100%, ripping and tearing, and just making some errors and form just not being in your favour, and being at 70% and just unable to fully go all the way.
Yeah.
And would he be even be able to keep up with the pace of the game in Origin? I mean, look, we're talking about Tom Trbojevic. If his name, as you said, if his name was literally anyone else, like, I would go as far to say as, like, the only other person that you'd give this much leeway to would probably be Teddy. Anyone else, Teddy and Cleary maybe. Anyone else you'd say, no, until he's 100%, we don't get him in. What do you reckon?
To answer that question, I wanted to say to you, I'd leave it up to Tommy, but I wonder if it's being left up to Tommy right now. And I'm not sure if he's making the right call.
Tell me what you reckon.
My gut feel, I mean, I want to... a little bit reserved with judgment because there's still a month to Origin. So I don't want to say now, no, I wouldn't pick him. Well, as it stands, I probably wouldn't pick him, but in a month's time, he could start striding out and look better.
Well, if he does, I think we all agree.
Yeah. My gut feel just says that he has a conversation with Freddie at some point and says, Manly need me. I can't get hurt again. I'm not at 100%. There are blokes like Campbell Graham knocking the door down. We're not short of options if I don't play. I just feel like that's a conversation that's going to be had.
And when I'm ready, I'll let you know.
When I'm ready, I'll let you know. And Freddie will go, mate, as soon as you're ready, you will. And you're sort of saying around, like, Manly, is he forcing the hand? He wants to play. It's Tom Trbojevic. I think he's like the ultimate clubman. And I think he'll do the same at Origin level. He'll go, I'm just not quite there.
Yeah.
And I can see this conversation being had. As we know, there's a month to go.
Yeah.
So if the week before he comes out and kills it, sweet, in there, slot him in.
All I need from Tommy is one good game.
Yeah.
And I'll put him in.
That's the other thing, though. Like, the first game's in 23 days. We keep saying a month. It's in 23 days. I have to pick the team 10 days before.
Team is picked 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Well, as I still stand by, I just need one full flight skits Tommy. Even if he doesn't kill it, like, even if he doesn't score 3 tries or sets 2 up, just him ripping and tearing, I'll pick him then.
I hope the plan has been, and it wouldn't be, because I think the club would always be the focus, especially with Tommy at Manly, but build into it. Week before Origin, whack, 100% Tommy, 100% Tommy Turbo.
Maybe.
Tell you what, it'll be very interesting. That'll get named on the Sunday night. We name ours, don't we, Matty?
Oh, it is Sunday now. Yeah, it is.
Sunday night.
So almost 2 weeks.
He plays the Raiders Sunday 4 p.m. He's the last game of the week, so that'll be his last opportunity.
Can you imagine if he comes out and scores 3 tries and sets 3 up?
Good God.
He did do it. He did do it in 19. He was injured for the whole. I think he did his hammy against Rabbits. Came back for 2 weeks. Had an average game week 1 and then killed it.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit different though, because we're seeing evidence of him being at like 70 to 80% for quite a while in regards to. Whereas back then it was just like, you know, he'll come back and rip and tear. Like, he's just got to get his hammy sweet. Whereas now we just don't know whether he's being told to hold back. Yeah, there's so much stuff we don't know. As I said, all I need from him is one game ripping and tearing, and I would select him. But at the moment, it's just tough because I just don't know where he's at. I just don't know where he's at.
I've got a few numbers for you, which you might like. So I felt like last year on the potty, quite often when we speak about Manly, we were talking about DCE and his defence and sort of going, we had question marks around that edge. So I found them late last week and just found it very fascinating. So last season, the right edge, DCE defending on, conceded 50% of the tries. This year, the same edge is at 19%. Because I was like, I'm going to speak about DCE, like edge going a lot better, so significantly better. Tells me a couple of things. Firstly, that, you know, the other edge half of chopping and changing 3 times all season, which is getting decimated, 55% of the tries coming down Manly's left edge. But it also says to me, Kieran Foran defensively. How, like, good he was for that side, and we know how good he is defensively, but, like, those numbers back it up. The Titans this year, 24% of their tries have come down the left edge compared to 42% of the other edge.
Wow.
So, like, just the Foz factor.
The Foz factor.
Yeah.
Jeez, they'd be stinging upstairs, wouldn't they? But, look, I don't think anyone begrudged them that decision. I think everyone understood where they were coming from in regards to, you know, trying to get Schuster for long-term superstar. Look, I still think they can make the 8 because they've got a guy like Tommy. They've got a guy like DCE. But it was a really disappointing performance, in my opinion, for the Manly Seagulls. Anything else, boys?
No.
All good, mate.
Ironically, Aaron Woods came on, 12 runs, 105 metres. He was one of their best forwards, literally.
Not funny with me. I understand it's just the reality of the ladder, but to me it feels like yesterday they were coming second. They're now 10th.
I know, they've just fallen off a cliff. Really fallen off. And they, outside of that, you know, dogfight with Melbourne, they haven't really fired a shot since. Now, let's get on to Warriors versus Panthers. Wow, there's some noise around this game. So did you put the quote in the... okay, could you just text it to me, the quote from the CEO of One, which is their main sponsor? And whilst you do that, special in-store Bloke promo in Newcastle, Hunter area, running from Tuesday in these stores. IGA Ritchie's Cessnock, IGA Ritchie's Ellamore Vale, IGA Ritchie's New Lambton. 2 new venues are now pouring Bloke beer on tap. The Bank Hotel in East Maitland, Dam Hotel in Wyong on Central Coast now. Both will be serving Bloke beer as part of their happy hour. So that is the Bank Hotel, East Maitland, Dam Hotel in Wyong on the Central Coast. And as I said, special in-store Bloke promo, Newcastle Hunter area, IGA Ritchie's Cessnock, IGA Ritchie's Ellamore Vale, and IGA Ritchie's New Lambton. So make sure to get in. It might be a jersey that you can win. It might be discounted. It might be some key rings that we're giving away, Bloke key rings that you literally can't buy. You can only get them in store. So head into IGA Ritchie's Cessnock, Ellamore Vale, or New Lambton. Have you sent that through? Okay, here we go. So the CEO of One has come out and said on Twitter, "Are you kidding me? How biased are the NRL bunker and referees against New Zealand Warriors? Have they got money in them to lose? It's like we're permanently against 14 on the field and they want us to play with 12. Huge courage from the boys." There's also another quote just sent then. He also said, "Cheating of the highest order," in a separate tweet. Whoa. Well, this is such a weird one because so first of all, I don't think the refs are intentionally cheating against the Warriors. I don't think that's happening for sure. Like, I think that's pretty unfair to say that they're intentionally cheating. I also think, you know, as a CEO, it's pretty hectic to say on Twitter. Like, if you're a CEO, a major CEO of a major company as a sponsor, I'm sure he'll be spoken to internally. I will say, though, because I know Warriors fans are blowing up Deluxe right now going, "Are you serious, Kempy? We get shafted all the time." I will say, though, that I do think there is a subconscious bias where the Warriors are usually on the short end of the stick. There's actually been studies there's also studies on this. Recently, they studied Norwegian Soccer League. And basically, the study came out, and this applies to anything in life. It's like called social pressures. So home teams usually get the rub of the green. I think we all know that. That's a natural thing. Most fans know that watch sport. But also, teams that are more successful are usually more likely to get, less penalties against them, but also more calls for them. And that's what the study found. And I think the Warriors do find themselves in this really tough spot where they're in an Australian, air quotation marks, league. And so there is a subconscious kind of like, I do think there is a subconscious situation where they're getting, seem to be getting, sorry, not they are definitely getting. It seems in my opinion, that they get tougher calls than other teams. I think it's actually on the weekend you can find a really good example of that. So there was that push and shove, and look, maybe the difference is it was third man in. There's a push and shove. The Warriors rookie, who is, I think he was in his debut or first few games, comes in, essentially pushes across to clear his face like jersey grab. The good old push across the jersey grab face. A few games later, big Trelly Mitt gets up and pushes Harry Grant's head. Misses the first time, definitely gets him the second time. Nothing, not even a penalty. Meanwhile, the Warriors player gets sent for 10. And now, first of all, 2 different referees. Maybe another referee would have done something differently. But from a Warriors fan's perspective, you'd be sitting back and going, hang on a second here. I just saw my player get sent for 10 in the bin in a game that we were very close into, and a superstar of the game, Trelly Mitt. And to be clear, I think both weren't 10 in the bin. Like, penalty at most. Yeah, so I can understand where Warriors fans are coming from. They get shafted quite a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have been shafted. I think that the accusations of cheating are very disappointing.
Yeah.
And you know, it disappoints me. I've always been pretty outspoken that I hate when people have a crack at referees and all that sort of stuff, and I think that this is really poor form. But the thing that annoys me the most is that despite everything the Warriors have had against them, I haven't heard anyone from within that system complain. Yeah. It has just been an attitude. We get on with it and we move forward. And I hate that. And, it's not the Warriors that are saying this, but it's associated with the Warriors.
Yeah, yeah.
And I personally think the coach would be fuming.
Oh, for sure.
He has kept them so headstrong through so many things that I agree are bullshit, but they have never once shown a weakness to point a finger.
Yeah.
And now this sort of gets associated with the Warriors, which is the only thing that really annoys me about it.
Which is so unfair on them. You're right. They've been so good. And even though they got this 11-game turnaround, like after everything they've done, it doesn't seem like they've been rewarded at all for what they have gone through. I agree with you in regards to I don't like this cheating word being thrown out a lot. Cheating means that you're saying they're intentionally making these calls. I don't think any ref goes out there to intentionally do any of that. It sucks because, as you said, like it's detracting away from such a great Warriors season, but it's so hard to talk about because can anyone really deny that the Warriors don't get some tough calls against them quite regularly? Timmy, what do you reckon?
Yeah. First thing, I think, love the passion from him. Obviously loves the club. Secondly, cheating, what a load of shit. Like, they're not going out there to give him a hard time, but I love the subconscious bias call. I'm a big believer in it within the NRL and sport in general. Speaking of bias, coming from a Raiders fan who we whinge about this subconscious bias shit all the time, so I get it from Warriors fans. And I don't think the refs are going out there to give them, make it an unlevel playing field and go against the Warriors, but with you boys, I think they've had copped some real rough end of the stick at times this season, and I'm a believer in the subconscious bias side of things. So, I think they have right to be, not stoked about it.
Yeah, so, I don't know what else there is to say because us talking about the fact that they get some rough calls isn't going to really change anything. Nah. You don't want the refs going out there and consciously giving them calls either. So they're just in a tough spot, the Warriors. They're up against it pretty much because they're in an Australian league. I would love to see the reverse. I would love to see if there was a New Zealand league and there was one Australian side in that league, would we get... I assume we probably would get the rough end as well because we're the away team all the time.
Well, the example is and I know this is a big generalisation, but let's say a Jackson Ford gets binned for something controversial in that game. Bit of chat about it, but, the papes and all that, they're not going to pay much attention to it. If Nathan Cleary got binned for the same controversial thing, it'd be like front page. Yeah, because it'd just be the biggest story ever. And that's where I think subconscious bias comes in, a little bit of refs going, I can do this. It's not going to be the end of the world. I'm not going to get hammered in papers.
Yeah, it's such a good point.
And again, it's not cheating. It's just I do think this sort of stuff exists.
And to be clear, guys, we all have subconscious bias.
Yeah,
every human on the earth has subconscious bias. So it's not just referees in all different sports. It's literally every human on earth has subconscious bias.
And if you think you don't understand what it is.
Yeah, you're not understanding what the concept is. When people say, I'm not biased because of this or that. No, everyone has a bias. It's literally part of our DNA, like our makeup is the way we think.
I'll go through and watch. I've felt myself doing it at times this season. I try to rein myself back in. Greg Marju, I have questions around him in defence, and I find as an issue. And then there'll be games where he plays really well, and in the back of my head, I'm just going like, yeah, but he missed a tackle here, and I'm just like, I didn't have that great a game. Like, that is subconscious bias. I'm like, no, he played awesome.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, rein it in, come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even tipping. So, like, if I've tipped a team and they get a tough call, I'm filthy about it just because I want to get the tip right.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I'm not that filthy when the other team gets a tough call. So we've all got it in disguise. Does it make it okay for Warriors fans? Like, no, it doesn't. But, I'm not going to sit here and pretend they don't get rough calls because there were some rough calls on the weekend. And even the 10 in the bin for that, the hip drop-ish, I don't know, 10 in the bin for that? Fuck.
I'm so sick of hearing that sentence.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the game. I thought Warriors were so brave. Like, it just, even though like 18-6 and I think the Panthers, they kicked, they got a penalty at the end there, and so it was basically 16-6. Anyway, fuck, there's so many, it's all one blur. I thought the Warriors were so brave in this game, and just, if you ever needed an example of like, it's so much more than hype. They've got new systems in place. There's so much to be excited about at the Warriors. There really is, and they've put themselves in such a good position to do something special this year. They currently they have 10 points, which is one win outside the 8. They are really in a good position. Can you get their draw up, please, for the next month or so, just to see where we're at?
They get Bronx round 13, which is a cheering.
Like, massive. And also they get a lot of Warriors fans up to the Broncos game.
So the Warriors have the Doggies next week, followed by the bye, followed by the Bronx, followed by the Dolphins, followed by the Raiders, by Dragons. So, pretty good.
You can win. Guaranteed 4 points in that stretch. You get Broncos without their origin players, I'm pretty sure. Like, they are all winnable games.
So the other thing is about them too that's going to be really interesting over the next few weeks is that they won't get Tomato Martin back just yet, but they'll get Luke Metcalf. I think he's going to play 5. You guys will know, you'll have team list probably by the time you're watching this. I think he'll be named at 5'8" this week.
Okay.
Which not only is that a gain at 5'8", but you also get Dylan Walker at 14, which is huge for them.
Did he play New South Wales Cup?
Didn't, but
He
he
ended up
did their
being straight
captain's
back
run.
in.
I think. Well, I think it's sort of gone on the radar. But like the Warriors sent him to America to work on his hamstring as well.
Yeah.
Like he's the real deal, Metcalf. They take him very seriously, and
I think he's killed it enough in New South Wales Cup to know, like, we know how good this guy is. And also in the trial, we knew how good he was. I reckon you just put him in there.
And I believe
And Walker can cover him.
that eventually when Martin is back, I think there's a chance they'll run with the bench of Metcalf and Walker.
Yeah, and just bring Walker on as a forward pretty much.
When's Martin back?
Still a few weeks away, I think. But it will be interesting because he was so good at the start of the season, Martin. But if Metcalf shows what he can do in the next few weeks...
Because he's been tearing New South Wales Cup for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Like, literally tearing it apart. But outside of that, Sean Johnson, I thought he was outstanding. When there was a period there where it was vintage Johnson off the right foot and then that kick in for a repeat set. And he's going, come on, boys. I'm going, yes, SJ, go, son. Marcelo Montoya, 196 metres, 21 runs. Chance Nugel-Klukstad, 26 runs, 191 metres. Adam Blake, I really think he's really starting to hit his straps in regards to, like, he's gone against the best forward packs. He was outstanding against the Roosters, outstanding against the Panthers, showing his class. And, again, it's more to our point earlier. Adam Blake, he was doing this at the Manly, and you couldn't hear enough about him. He was one of the best front rowers in the comp. Goes to the Warriors, and you don't hear much about him anymore. And that's, again, because it's an Australian league, and you don't hear it. It's, papers don't write about it as much.
On that one, it's also to our point, Tohu Harris ball playing. Their combination is so good. Pretty simple. Go to the line, tip on, but they're in sync, them boys.
Tohu Harris is like Yo.
Yeah.
Like, I'd still have Yo as the form best 13 in the comp. But, I mean, Tohu Harris is not far off him at all.
Just on AFB as well, like, he played 67 minutes on the weekend. If Payne Haas didn't exist, we'd be sitting here going, oh, my God.
Yeah,
how does a
big
front
boy.
row forward get through that many minutes?
And Tohu Harris, I think it was his first game back from injury, 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Crazy.
beast.
So it is hard to be critical of the Warriors because I thought they were so brave. In that game, what I loved about it from the Warriors' perspective is they didn't show Panthers any respect. They a lot of the time you can go up against these glamour clubs, this team that's back-to-back premiers, and almost you're not fearful of them, but you respect them so much that you don't get into it. Whereas I think the Warriors came out and said, "Nah, bruh, we're not taking a backward step today. We're not taking a backward step."
So Penrith, we know they get out there, they blow you out of the water early, not even necessarily on the score line, but their line speed, and they just wear you out. And then late in games, they'll often start piling on the points, like most good teams do, to be fair. Warriors had 2 sin bins, both in the second half. Panthers scored 1 second half try. Panthers completed at 85%, and they conceded 3 tries. 1 in the second half with 2 in the bin. That's very, very
incredible.
How much does that show about the resilience of your defence and your entire side?
Mate, it's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely
Funny, the
amazing.
Warriors, like last week, scoreless against the Roosters, but was nowhere near as the scoreline looked. Bad as it looked. In that bog of a game.
Yep.
18-6 down here. Doesn't look great, but you look at it closer, there's some good things around the corner, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so impressed by the Warriors. I cannot wait to see when it all starts to come to fruition. You know, when 1 or 2 maybe recruits, they go into the market, RTS gets back next year. Fuck, it's going to be good.
Keep an eye on it over the next few weeks. They put up on their social media this morning, me being a rugby league nerd, I love this, but they put out a little picture, a little hint at a jersey over the next few weeks. It's all black with silver
Oh, yes.
down the middle. It looks unreal.
Yes. I tell you what, one of the greatest jerseys ever created in the history of mankind is the white, red, green, and blue V old school Warriors jersey is a DB bitter.
Yeah, bitter on the front. Yeah.
Oh,
There was a few of them getting around on the weekend there. Some of the jerseys on the weekend, I was in heaven.
so good, man. They don't make them like they used to, do they? No. They really don't.
Outside of bloke jerseys.
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, so Warriors, incredible performance in my opinion. Considering everything that they had to go through in that game, and I just think, the score doesn't reflect the aggressive, tight nature of it. If you go back and you watch that game, it was a barnstormer. Like the hits, just back and forth. Critter got shotted, then Critter shotted Walker, and then it was just, oh man, great game of footy. Now onto the Panthers. Good, solid win. Still finding their feet, I think, the Panthers, because, and you might say, well, that's a bit tough. Like they got the win, and it was a tough game, but I'm just not seeing. And it makes sense. You lose Abby Coruscant, you lose kick out. It's gonna take some time, but I do think that they're nowhere near as favourites to win the comp as they were at the start of the year for me. Now, does that mean I still do think they're premiership threats? I still do think they can win the competition. I think it's going to take time, but I'm still yet to see a Panthers game outside of that. Was it 2 weeks ago? Who was it that they put an absolute clinic on?
They put a really big clinic on Canberra in the second half, and they were good against South, but South beat them.
Oh, there was a game where they were amazing. Manly, towed up Manly.
Oh, they
first half.
tied up Manly the first half, yeah.
Outside of that, but now we look how Manly's going. Outside of that, I don't think I've seen a game where I've watched the Panthers and gone, oh shit. Whereas last year there were many games where I was going, oh my God, how do you beat these guys? Now, as I said, they've got plenty of time to build into it, and they're such a great club that, we're judging them off a three-peat, not judging them off like, can they make the 8? We're judging off, can they go 3 in a row? Guru, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree with you, but I just think they're just a team that's just going, get our head above water until September arrives. Mm-hmm. Our season starts then, realistically. And I think they are still working out combinations. As you said, Appy's not there, Kikau's not there, and they've had to make a lot of changes in all those positions. They've had injuries and whatnot. But we know what wins comps. It's defence. And despite them not looking as good in certain parts,
number one.
I mean, they haven't conceded more than 20 points in a game so far this year. And they are the hunted every single week. I mean, last week they lost to the Tigers. I know it was in the pissing rain. They still only conceded 12 points.
Yeah, when they lost to the Broncos, it was like 13-12 or something like that.
Yeah, 13. Even South Sydney, they lost them a few weeks ago. We just scored 3 tries in the last 5 minutes. So so for 75 minutes they defended South Sydney, Latrell Cody to under 10 points. I just defense wins comps, and as much as I agree with you, I don't think they're the showstoppers right now. But for me, And I'm sure they would be. Are they still your premiership favourites in your mind?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, to be really clear, like I'm just more saying with the information we have now, because I mean, go back to my preseason preview. What was my take was this: I don't want them coming out firing because I just don't know how they can go another year firing all the way. I actually want them to be a bit quiet, drop a few games, get to September, and just go fucking crazy.
Because they're still, when I look around the competition, they're still the team that I trust the most in September, by far and away.
Yeah. Especially defense is king.
Well, they've got the average, obviously the best defence in the NRL, averaging 13 points conceded for the season. Bunnies are in second with 15 conceded. Broncos 17. It's already a 4 point swing between first and third. And then it goes, every other team is 19 plus. Like, that is a substantial difference.
Yeah.
And you mentioned their attack, and we keep talking about it, but new nine, or half a new nine with Kenny and Luke, new back rower, they're just, the attack will come. When these combinations sort themselves out, the attack will come, the defence is still there. And as you said, Guru, that's what you worry about come September. So,
And like, not only are they missing Kikau and Appy, Liam Martin hasn't played now in 5 or 6 weeks. Like, he was the best forward on the field in the grand final. He was the best forward on the field for the Kangaroos when in the games that mattered. Like, I think he is such an important part of this side too.
I thought Brian To'o was outstanding, and you know what the Panthers are? They're almost in that Storm territory when Storm are at their peak, where like unless they're going out absolutely belting teams, you're going, oh yeah, it was okay, but you know at the end of the day, they've, as you guys have just pointed out, they're defensively head and shoulders above the rest of the competition, and they're still missing Liam Martin. James Fisher-Harris has been out for a few weeks. They're still working on that Mitch Kenny / Sonny Luke connection. Zach Hoskins, Scott Sorensen, he's starting. Hoskins, he's only in his, 10th game of NRL? 15th? Oh, yeah. Maybe, let's say 13th or 14th game of NRL.
Isaac Tungo's still out.
Isaac Tungo's still out.
Taylor May's out too.
Taylor May, yeah. Taruva's so good far out. I don't know what they're going to do there. Lindsay Smith off the bench I actually think has been really good. Yeah, so as I said, so far I haven't seen that game where I'd just go, holy shit. But I do think that defence wins premierships. It really does.
Yeah.
And I agree with this, a good take, Guru, of like, they're definitely the one team right now where I'm the most confident with. Like, I know what I'm going to get. There's not going to be some bizarre, like, come out of nowhere, get towed up or whatever.
Because I look around the rest of this competition, I look at Brisbane, they haven't been there and done it. I look at South Sydney, you're always close, but you haven't been able to overcome Penrith. I look at the Sharks, who went into the finals with an unbelievable season, went out in straight sets. There's a lot of teams there that would get to finals and would be nowhere near as confident as Penrith. Even the Roosters, they haven't put it together in 4 years.
And there's not many teams that have players in them that have done it.
Yeah.
Whereas
you look at the Panthers, they won last year's premiership because their attack was unbelievable. The defence was still good, but the year before that, they also won when they were broken, absolutely broken. They just went, if we don't concede 14 points tonight, we win, and we'll do that for 4 weeks to win a comp.
Yeah. I mean, the only team with you got Keary and a few of the Roosters boys, Storm, like Reno at the Bronx, but like when you're talking about multiple players in a side that's won a comp, I mean, this Panthers side is just. It's literally the whole side, won multiple comps. So, yeah, good, solid win, setting themselves up nicely. Yet to see that breakout game where I get strikes fear in the NRL. But also, as I said, it's kind of like if they did come out firing again, it would almost be too good to be true.
Yeah.
It almost would be too good to be true.
Be very interesting over the next few weeks with Origin. Obviously, we've spoken about it. They've lost so many of those reserve grade guys that, it would have been the next few weeks where you would have seen Sean O'Sullivan, you would have seen Hopgood, you would have seen all these guys. Now they're all gone. It'll really test, your Maverick guys, your Tom Jenkins, these sort of guys and how they go.
Well, big couple of weeks for them because Roosters and Broncos. I don't think they can lose two. Well, they can lose both of them. They're both very losable games. But let's say they were to lose them both. They'll probably be sitting almost just outside the 8, if not at the bottom of it. All of a sudden, it makes it a little bit more pressure on not being able to rest players with niggles across the Origin because you need to start racking them up. You can't coast through there and get away with it. So, if even one of two, they're still not comfortably in there, are they? So it's different to where they've been in the past.
Yeah. It's but I actually, it's hard to say because we don't know whether they're going to turn it around not turn it around, but they're going to go to a new level in September. But as I said, I'd rather this than them on top of the table flying, which sounds bizarre. I get it because you're going, are you serious right now? But I just don't know if it's humanly possible to fly that hard, that long.
Put it this way, I don't think Ivan Cleary would be too concerned with me.
No, not at all. Brian To'o was amazing. He actually might even squeeze into me team of the week over Nofaluma. I'm not sure. I'm still undecided. 247 metres from 25 runs, 63 post contact, 7 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks. I just want to give a shout out to Taruva though, even though To'o was the best winger on the field. The amount of plays Taruva does that gets them out of trouble, huge defensive plays because teams don't want to kick it to To'o because he's just going to fucking steamroll half your side. He's amazing, Taruva. He's really, really good, and he's a big moment player. Like, when the moment approaches him, each week I'm getting more confident that he's going to take it and it's going to be fine. Like, there'll be a bomb that will go up and I'll be shitting myself going, oh no, here we go. Here's the error. Like, all the pressure's on him and he'll duck 3 tackles, step another guy and get a quick play of the ball. Like, he's so good, Taruva. So good. I guess, and you can begin to understand. I mean, we already knew, not begin to understand. We already understood where the Panthers were coming from. But with Critter, you know, I get that the Critter would have taken minimum, but also there's only a minimum you could play Critter because he's an Origin player. But when you've got a guy like Taruva coming through that can play in that centre role, you kind of go, you just have to make that tough call. Even though it's tough on Critter, he's a local, he's won you 2 premierships. It's just a salary cap, man. It's just going to squeeze it. Like Taruva, he wouldn't have a minimum value right now.
And it doesn't end at Taruva. There's more to come.
Yeah, well, there's that gun winger that was killing it in the preseason trials. He hasn't even got a look in this year. Yeah,
there's Jesse McLean, there's Tom Jenkins. There's a lot to come.
Yeah, so if you can get 3 or 4 of those blokes on 120K, because Taruva would be on minimum now, I reckon, still. Maybe next year he goes up. Whereas I think, I'd assume, and it's just an assumption, I'm pretty sure Critter's minimum value would be like 400K. You couldn't pay him any less than that, I don't think, on the salary cap rules that are as they are. Anyway, so look, great stuff from the Panthers. Oh, good stuff, good solid win. Hoskins, once again, gets through a bunch of work. Isaiah Yeo, once again, gets through a bunch of work. Cleary is just, mate, we're witnessing greatness. We are witnessing greatness.
I loved when he put that shot on Josh Curran. Like, stood up and got stuck into him. That was Joey-esque.
Yeah, that was exactly what I wanted to say. I know people don't like it, but that's what Joey used to do.
I don't care if you don't like it.
Yeah.
You can't deny it.
You cannot deny it. And you used to see Joey's bucket ass get back to the line and fly out and hit someone. And it was almost his unsung part of Joey's game that he could whack blokes in D.
Yep.
Whereas all the other not all the other sevens, a lot of other sevens of that generation just couldn't do that.
And not get out and hit someone, get out and hit back rowers.
Fucking so good. There's the Cles dog. He's got the dog in him.
And keep in mind too that, you know, he hasn't goal kicked in 2 weeks. He's obviously not 100% either, Nathan Cleary, and he's playing through it.
That's a good point. Fuck you, Nathan Cleary, for being so good, bro. Come Broncos, please. Come to the Broncos. Imagine Cleary in a Broncos jersey.
No, I quit.
Oh my God. Let's do it. Cles, ring me. I got about...
Cles.
I got a pallet of brown paper bags over there that may or may not hold large sums of cash in them.
Is Cles copyright bloke in the bar? I haven't heard that before.
I think they call him Cles.
Is Cles?
I don't know. Maybe it's just the vibe that I get, and I've vibed it out.
Have you boys heard Cles before?
Yeah, I have.
Have you heard Cles? Oh, fuck off, mate. He ruins everything. Oh, yeah. We had a great bit going. I've been in Origin camp. I'm so fucking mad.
No. I saw it. I seen it on their socials.
I was with Maddie on, was it Saturday morning, mate? Saturday morning, we were both hungover as all hell, sitting in the lobby waiting for our Uber. And he goes, oh my God, there's Freddie. And I sprung up. I was like, where? And he goes, oh, it's not Freddie.
Oh my God.
Bloke looks nothing like Freddie. Nothing at all.
God. He's so toey for Origin. He's in a desert seeing fucking mirages and shit. Oh my God.
If Freddie was at my hotel, he would have texted me before he walked past us. So.
You know what's funny? So he rocked up Saturday and we were sitting out the back waiting for the meet and greet. And a few boys go, Guru, he's hurting. And Matty's like, Guru, he's hurting. And then if another vote comes on, I think Guru's hurting. No. Anyway, the first thing the Guru said was, I hate this narrative.
I blame Giral solely. Big stuff.
Were you hurting or were you not hurting?
He goes, you all right? I go, yeah, I'm feeling all right. Then everyone that I walked up and said hello to, he'd put his arm around and go, he's not feeling great. He's not feeling great. I go, can you fuck off?
And so, yeah, literally everyone. And Guru's like, I'm fucking sweet, bro. Like, this narrative is killing me. And so the narrative of the day, just like a narrative in footy match, was Gurino was hurting. I tell you what, he's a fucking stayer, though. You were out
Playing
to what?
hurt.
On Saturday, well, fucking, what time did you end?
Well, we ticked it just past 9 p.m, I think, didn't we? Had a good little evening.
On Saturday,
Very good night.
Home at half time in the bunny store.
when did you end up home Saturday?
Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, after 3.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a dogs.
I was
Very
out a
good time.
little bit later than those two.
Where'd you just go? What'd you just do?
Well, just in Caxton.
Just
Downstairs,
talking- just
downstairs
within
Caxton.
25 metres the entire weekend. It was great.
Really? Fucking hell.
Had
Nice.
punch and scoos with NRL physio in the wee hours of the morning.
Oh, was NRL physio there? The great. Mate, what a legend. What was he doing on the weekend?
He's like a hardcore Dolphins fan. So
Really?
he was just on
He's got like
cloud
30
nine.
jerseys from the
Yeah.
last 30 years.
He's from the
Yeah.
Redcliffe
so he's
area,
Redcliffe
so he's
area,
OG,
okay.
yeah.
So he's an OG.
Yeah, yeah.
That explains it all, doesn't it? Talk about loyalty. Talk about a good bloke.
He when I saw him, and the first time I've actually seen him in real life. So he spoke for ages, and I said, "Oh, what about the Dolphins?" And he goes, "Mate, the fact we exist makes me so happy. The fact we're winning blows me away."
Fucking so
He almost
good.
had a tear in his eye. He was so happy.
So yous went what, 2-3 Friday in the morning, and then 3 on Saturday, and then up for a 9 o'clock flight Sunday.
Yeah.
You're lucky we're here, mate.
I think on Friday morning, I think we went to Macca's on the way home. I think we ended up with 40 nuggets.
yeah, they
I might
upsold
have
us.
just nudged 27 of them, maybe.
They
They a
upsold,
lot of nuggets.
They upsold you.
they upsold us with
They
nuggets.
nailed it. Saw us coming.
Fucking hell, eh? Those days for me, I could not do that these days. Like I couldn't.
We heard some stories on the weekend.
Yeah, that's what I say these days. These days, fuck, I don't know how you boys did it. I'd be wrecked, mate. If I went out till 3 in the morning and then 3 the next, I would be wrecked. Mate, shows me age, mate. Getting old. The crazy thing is I'm not that much older than you guys. I think it's when you hit like 32, 33, starts to creep up on you as a 35-year-old turning 36. Fuck. In saying that, fucking a few of the other big dogs, they were charging way harder than anyone else.
I think if it was a normal weekend, though, we would have been hurting a lot more. I think
Yeah.
I personally mentally prepared for it's going to be a bad Sunday type situation. So
Yeah.
just because it was Magic Round, I think the whole vibe brought the energy up.
And I also think, like, when you're sitting in a room and Matty Johns is holding court for an hour, you can push through that shit.
There was nothing that could have gone wrong for me that day. I didn't.
So it's for the punters listening. So we're up in the Caxton room, like the top room where we do the meet and greet that's usually closed for patrons, and everyone's just downstairs. Anyway, so Brian Fletcher walks in. Fuck yeah, how good, Fletch. That's mad. And the great Matty Johns walks in, gives us an hour of power. I had to go because I had to catch my flight. Gives the boys an hour of power. Some of the best yarn, chat. It's almost like he was holding court. It was a showman. And guess which bloke wasn't there and missed it? Timmy.
I had the best weekend, and there's just this blight on it that I missed this. I was, just doing the average man kind of thing with all my mates down at another pub. Saying it was actually the SC Playbook crew. We got together for a catch up. I had the best afternoon, and then as we sort of wrapped things up and we were leaving the pub, and I was going to head back to the Caxton to see you lads, checked my phone, and Matty had a thing up with Matty Johns, and my heart just sunk. I went, what have I done? And then I got back there and I hear that the boys were running shapes with him upstairs Caxton. I was like, oh.
Literally. The boys were literally running shapes with Matty Johns.
Yeah.
upstairs.
When Matty was mid-yarn, me and Matty Buxton over here, the water boy, we turned to each other and go, fuck, Timmy's going to be devastated. He goes, should we text him? I go, nah, he deserves this.
It was
Yeah,
honestly...
you didn't even text me, you
I
dogs,
know,
and
I
tell me.
I don't apologise.
It was-
I'm stoked.
It was an hour of, like, when I was there for half of it. It's one of those things where you go, I'll remember this for the rest of my life. I'm in the famous Caxton Street secret room where all the crazy shit happens. And Matty is he was on He was just killing it.
That's what stood out for me because I could even see on your face how much you were enjoying. I was like, he spends hours with this guy every week. But Matty was just
on fire.
Tim would have loved it.
Mate, he was on fire. As soon as he walked straight in, he was on fire. It was just like so humbling that we get these experiences.
Oh.
Like, fuck, how lucky are we? Luckiest fucking blokes ever. All right. Unlucky, Timmy.
Mate.
It's been a tough year for you. You lost Jackie, then you didn't get to see one.
I'd be happy for Jack to have gone to the Bunnies if it meant I could go back and have that hour with Matty Johns.
Now on to Dolphins defeating the Sharks 36-16. Wow. I cannot believe it. I feel like we've given Dolphins their due this year, especially, even Timmy, for example, and Guru were both a bit like, I don't know how they're going. Timmy especially. Then they came out in the first couple of rounds. But then they came out and you said, you know what? I was wrong. Got it wrong. And so we all kind of got on the same bandwagon, I guess, of like, fuck, how wrong were we about the Dolphins? Like, although they were going so well that we were thinking, they're probably 10th, 11th or 12th even. They get hit by injury. I think we all agree we're a bit like, whoa, now's the time that we're going to see that pre-predicted, their best 17 is good, but when they get hit by injury, that's when they're going to struggle. But at every turn, every time we say maybe this is going to be the time they struggle, they just turn up and go, nah, totally fine. We've got a 18, 19-year-old 7 leaders around. We've got Cody Nikodima, who is, basically in a position where might not even be in their top 17, who's playing some really good footy. Like, I think he's been playing really good for the Dolphins, especially the last 2 weeks. I just cannot believe that they continue to defy all odds. And although I still think they may not make the 8, it's getting harder and harder and harder to say they won't make the 8.
Said it last week. I didn't think they'd win this game against the Sharks. But I said last week, fuck, is anyone going to be shocked if they are a top 8 team? And if we do get the end of the year and they've managed to hang in there and they finish 6, 7, 8, I'm not surprised anymore.
I'm getting so close to that, Guru. I'm getting so close to going.
But, mate, they led 30-10 in this game against the Cronulla Sharks. You said last week you got them as premiership smokies. So do I. I assume you'd have them in your top 4 or so.
At the start of the year, the Sharkies were definitely premiership contenders, sure.
Yeah. So 30-10, and then people are, okay, they went quiet in the second half. The second half was 6-6 against the Cronulla Sharks.
It is
Sharks
amazing.
are full strength, or close to full strength. Dolphins are missing their first choice halfback. We've got a teenager playing 5'8", who we said before, playing halfback, who we said before he's on his third halves pairing. Tafade, pluck him out of absolutely nowhere.
What a beast, Tafade.
What a monster.
What a monster of a game, too, because when Mulatalo stood him up at the start of the game, I'm going, uh-oh.
Yep.
He's big, but that's the thing. When you're that big in the NRL, if you don't have an extra metre of pace, you will just get torched every time. And I'm thinking, oh, no, this game is going to be, it might be brutal for Tafade. No, it wasn't. It was brutal for the other team on Tafade. That first try that he scored, I know I'm not saying it's like it in career, but it reminded me of a barnstorming Mamaninga. I said it. I'm not saying that he is going to be Mamaninga at all, but it really was reminiscent of the way he used to just fucking steamroll people.
Yeah, and he's such a talented guy. I loved on that play too. Isaiah Cartel, the ball that he threw, he showed under and he turned his body and flicked it the other way. I just love what the Dolphins are doing at the moment. And, obviously Tim copped a lot of shit at the start of the year for what he said, but fuck, I felt exactly the same way. I just wasn't as vocal about it, thank God.
Everyone. The thing is like so many carry-ons coming out of the woodwork pretending like they knew that this is what the Dolphins are going to do. Get fucked with that. There might be a small amount, 100%. For example, there was a player in their team that literally wanted to bet me $1,000 that they'd make the 8. So there is people for sure that were seeing things in the Dolphins that we weren't seeing. But if you are just stop pretending. 90% of the fan base or 80% of the rugby league fan base thought they'd be bottom 4 for sure. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
And people say to me, yeah, but Wayne Bennett's the coach. I go, fuck, he was the coach then. I know he's the coach. But you look at the team, I couldn't see how they could compete. And, I think Sean O'Sullivan is the best example. When they signed Sean O'Sullivan to be the halfback, I went, he's not up to being a franchise starting halfback. He then played the first 2 games. I went, okay, I was wrong. Sean O'Sullivan is. He got injured. And I said, the Dolphins are going to struggle without Sean O'Sullivan. Does Sean O'Sullivan walk straight back into the side?
Oh, well, potentially not at the moment. I mean, I think you'd put him there, but I don't think it's just yep, 100%. They're desperate for him back. This team is nothing without Sean O'Sullivan. It's just amazing.
And to think, if you lined up Sean O'Sullivan, Katoa, Anthony Milford, and Nick Arima at the start of the season and said, who's going to probably be the most influential one, I reckon a lot of people would have gone, probably Milford under Bennett. I would say he's 4th in line. Well, he is 4th.
He's definitely 4th in line.
I had to throw in a little cheeky same game multi before this, and everything read to me like saying really high on the Sharkies this year. I think they're genuine premiership contenders. So everything read with a big Sharkies win. I'm like, don't do it. I'm like, just don't put the bet on, because every time you go to say or do something against the Finns, you get proved wrong. Yeah. So just held off. I'm like, don't do it. The other thing that tied into it as well was the Finns getting up for big games, or milestone games. Start of the year with first game in the NRL, then first game at Redcliffe, first away game, even the first Brizzy derby against the Broncos were unbelievable in that. They just keep it. Wayne Bennett's 900th. What's such a large part of their success? Wayne Bennett getting them up, as if they weren't going to get up for Wayne's 900th game in the NRL. There's a lot of hype around it. Thank God to save himself $5.
Yeah, I was confident of a Sharks win. It was almost my sure thing of the week. I just thought that they had way too much firepower as long as they completed it over 70%. And look, I know they completed terribly, but that still doesn't excuse it. I thought the Sharks were just going to have way too much firepower.
One of my favourite moments of Saturday night outside of the Matty Johns hour was I was at the Caxton downstairs. I was with you and I was just about to leave. It was probably 2 a.m. or something. These 2 girls tapped me on the shoulder and I turned around and they said, "Oh, hi, Guru," blah, blah, introduced themselves. I said, "Hey, how are you?" They said, we're actually Finn Diesel's sisters.
Oh, no way.
Because I was so drunk, I went, what the fuck is a Finn Diesel? They go, Finn Diesel. And I went, Felice. They went, yeah. I was like, that's unreal that you introduce yourself
as Finn Diesel's
not
sisters.
As Felice's sisters. Finn Diesel. So shout out, girls. They watch Bloke.
That's so good, Finn Diesel. It's all about family. Fast and Furious, baby.
How good.
It's all about family. Finn Diesel's all about family. That is so good. What I love as well about the Dolphins is it's giving guys like Kaufusi, Jared Wallace, these guys that have played Origin to go, hang on a sec, these blokes, they can play. And if you ask the average footy fan, 12 months ago, Kaufusi's too old, Jared Wallace can't even make the Titans. Now have a look at him.
And you know what? I think Felice is a classic example that if he would have retired at Melbourne with 2-3 comps, whatever it is, people would have said, he's a system player.
Yeah.
And we've been saying it for a long time, and all the players echo it, that he's one of the best defensive players in this competition. I think people forget at times that's 50% of the game. And he's shown up there at the Dolphins just how important he is. And I think it's elevated him to, regardless of what happens with the Dolphins over the next 2 years or however longer his career has to go, he's elevated himself to another level, which he always deserved.
Yeah, because he's in all the Australian sides, all the Queensland sides, but this is almost like the cherry on top that goes, oh, hang on a sec, he's more than just a Storm system kind of player. Yes, they played a big role in it, but we got one of the, so good.
I say... when players stand out in sides going very poorly, and it was like Reece Walsh standing out at the Warriors, what can he do if he goes to a stronger club like that season? AJ Brimson is one that comes up all the time as well. Tough years at the Tides, but he always kills it. It's a reverse effect. You go from a gun club, how would they go at a weaker club? And Felice Kaufusi goes there, it's like, he's still a star. But it's like, how good is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
All the little things he does that weren't getting appreciated because he was surrounded by Billy Slater, Cooper Cron, Cameron Smith, GI, Folau, whoever it was at the time. I know he might have debuted after some of them, but you know what I'm saying, like this superstar.
And it's the leadership things. It's the things that in Melbourne, they didn't need him to come out and whack the living shit out of the alpha on the other side of the field. They didn't need it. But at the Dolphins, he's more than happy to take that on board and lead by example, which I love to see.
Guys, they did this without Jesse Bromwich.
Yeah.
They did this without their captain.
And
yeah, exactly.
Marky Nichols. Please. Nearly been a top try scorer this year. The disrespect.
They did.
I did not think that's what he meant by that.
Neither
at
did
all.
I. I thought you meant Sean O'Sullivan, if I'm being honest.
Oh,
The disrespect to Marky Nichols. I apologise, Marky Nichols. I apologise, sir. Pawasa is it Sui?
Farmasili.
Farmasili.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't heard of him that much. I don't know. Like, it's not like he's a young gun coming in. Comes in, does his job. Does the job. Like, opens the match for him, sets the platform, and there you go. You get 30 points in the first half.
I feel like I've been waiting a decade now for Herman SASA to be who I think he can be.
Yeah.
It's what's it been, 4, maybe 5 clubs now where I watch his first game and go, fuck, this is it. Herman's going to go well here. God, I hope the Dolphins is it because he is so talented. He's got so much to offer.
Him and Wallace off the bench, are just the impact they bring, both of them, like all together, so they're 2 offloads each. Plus, they both ran for over 100 metres. 15 runs for Wallace, 13 runs for Herman SASA. Like, what a good balanced bench to come off and both impact like that. Mate, it is just so good to watch. And like, as I said, if you go, all right, you start the season, you go, roster isn't that good on paper, but passion will get them up for the first couple of games.
Yeah.
Then the next excuse was, yeah, but injuries will, the passion will fade off, injuries will get them. Oh, yeah, but then if they have any injuries in the halves, that'll get them. At every turn, they just turn up and get it done. It is amazing. It's so good to watch. Now, individually, as I said, Valence Tafade, that first try, talk about setting yourself, like, what an entrance into rugby league. What an entrance into the NRL. And it's funny, Wayne said after the match that basically, paraphrasing, but he basically said he's a big game player and I just knew he would step towards the moment. And as I said earlier, when he got in and away by Mulatalo and it seemed way too easy, I'm going, oh, this guy's in for a long night. Every ball, and he just said, nah, no way. And that's what he did in his first game. Imagine when he gets some match fitness in NRL.
And like that's his debut at Magic Round in front of a packed stadium against a top 4 side. To put on a performance like that. And you got to remember, like, this guy's only been playing league for 2 years. He's new to the game. They got him from rugby union. He played for the Redcliffe Dolphins last year in the Queensland Cup out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he played well, but he didn't play a heap of games. I think he might have played 10 or 12 games.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing game 21, 22 of league.
Well, when you look at his stats, one of the really key things that I think stands out that a lot of people won't talk about, he made 20 tackles. So they were not going at him. They absolutely were choosing to go at him. So 20 tackles, 3 misses. But here's the key stat that I think is just really phenomenal. 5 one-on-one tackles. 5 one-on-one tackles and 20 tackles at centre. So he was tested. He didn't go out there and just get this lucky debut where no one's coming at him. And this was a guy that got traffic sent his way. Yes, he started off, struggled with the pace in regards to Mulatalo. But outside of that, that's a good debut.
And without knowing exactly who he made those one-on-one tackles with, he was directly marking Sifa Talakai.
Yeah.
You can tackle Sifa once one-on-one.
Yeah.
You deserve a medal.
Well, the Sharkies have got comfortably the best attack in the competition this season on points. 28.1. Broncos in second, 26.6. Dolphins, double check this, but Dolphins 24.8.
Yeah.
Third.
And so with Valence Tafade, I'm sure there are glass half empty saying, yeah, well, there was some try scored down his edge. Yeah, for sure. We're not sitting here saying he's the ready-made product or he's he's already at this top tier level. What we're saying is that they specifically went down his edge. He made his tackles. He did his job. Yes, there are areas of his games that will improve with time, but for a debut to do what he did in a big moment like that, it's a great debut.
We sit there and talk about the Finns and Wayne Bennett coach sides, how they love getting into the dogfight, get you in the grind, they'll win low, they'll win ugly. The Dolphins are the third best attack in the NRL on points scored.
It's crazy. It's amazing. Amazing. It's so good to watch. So congratulations to Tafade. As I said, there's parts of his game that, will improve. He's still got so much to learn. He's still early in his rugby league career. But in 2 or 3 years, if he keeps his head down and bum up and keeps working, oh my God.
You know what else I love about him, and it was something I noticed in the preseason that stood out to me straight away. I don't know the bloke from Bar of Soap, but what I noticed at the start of the season, they had a lot of their social media stuff. One of their first preseason training sessions, they gave him the microphone.
It was on the bus when he was,
Yep.
yeah.
Tell me a world where your old Broncos team would have given a reserve grader who had come from New Zealand the year before, had come from rugby union the year before, and said, "Hey, go and talk to Jesse Bromwich, go and talk to Felice Quizzy." He must be a proper locker room guy that has been infectious from day one.
The only world where that happens in at the Broncos is if they say, yeah, here's the mic, here's the camera, and then they pretend like they're actually going to post it, but they're taking the piss out of him, and they're like, "Bro, we're not posting that, you loser. What the fuck did you think?" It's like the funny story with...
Campy, did this happen to you?
No. Well, Gerard, for example, what they did was with Gerard, so when Gerard got told that he made Origin, we're all sitting around him, and we're like, "Mate, you're in Origin." Like, Hodjo's going, because Hodjo was the first time I tell him, "You have made Origin." And he's like, fuck off. Yeah, whatever. And so outside looking in, you'd be like, that's weird. Like, he's really vehemently denying that he's made Origin. But it's because the year before, around Australian side, they literally made a fake memo up and gave him one saying that he'd made the Australian side. And he was like, "Oh, I've made the Australian side, rah, rah." And he said he was scarred from that moment. So that's why he didn't believe that he'd made the Queensland side, because the boys had already stitched him up. It was brutal back in those days.
You know, it's insane to me. Like, he said on the weekend that in the weeks leading up to the fake memo, he was playing well enough to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
He was playing, like, it wasn't like it was completely out of the blue. It was believable. Like, that was...
Mate, Broncos back in the day was brutal.
Ruthless.
Like, so brutal, because it was just about weaning out the weak, weaning out the guys that couldn't cop it. It got so bad, I'm pretty sure, like, as the generations went on, like maybe around 2013 or whatever, that like coaching staff had to go, "Guys, you need to, there's this history of the way how brutal it is, it needs to change." And so that's how bad it was.
Speaking of, has Droll, anyone sighted him, heard from him from the weekend? Is he still functioning?
He's a goer, let's put it that way, and a stayer.
He said to me, I think it was Friday at about 1 o'clock, I had some Guru hats that I gave out when we had the bloke thing, and he goes, "What are they?" And Guru goes, "I love a court hat. Can I put it on?" I went, "Yeah, sure." And I was thinking, he'll wear this for half an hour. I saw him on Sunday morning waltzing around still. He hadn't removed it at all. Champion
bloke. Love Gerald. Absolutely love him. But Jerry Marshall-King, we've already really spoken about him in the team of the week, but oh wow, so good. I want to talk about my boy Lemuelu. Holy moly. He was a centre at the Cowboys for a period there.
Wayne Bennett.
And then that Wayne Bennett magic comes. He's a damaging back rower now. You got Kenny Bromwich playing 10 because he's doing so well. You got him in the front row and it's working. Lemuelu, what I love about his game is that it's such a Bennett thing to do, to have this one good defensive side, edge back rower and centre, or mainly edge back rower, and then have a strike edge back row on the other side. He's so good at balancing his team. Like, for many years, he did at the Broncos where, like, Hodjo was his strike centre, and then he might put just a really good, strong defensive centre on the other side.
Exactly what he's done.
Yeah.
With Aitken.
Yeah,
Gun
exactly.
defend. And that's not a knock on Lemuelu as a defender, but you're right, in terms of balancing it out, it's all strategic.
It's all strategic about balancing a footy side. And Lemuelu, hasn't he just gone from strength to strength? Like, I did not see him playing so well that Kenny Bromwich should be playing in the front row. It's going to be interesting to see when Jesse comes back. Will they be a front row pairing? How good would that be?
There was the other way. I think they stay as they are. I think they will.
Jesse comes in, so the Bromwich brothers front row pairing.
They lined up in the front row together, I think, 2 weeks ago. I'm
that
pretty
is
confident
sick.
of it. Yeah, it's unreal.
Not enough noise was made about that, because that's pretty sick. Front row brothers, that's fucking mad.
But, especially one that hasn't been a front rower his whole career.
Yeah.
Year 12 or 13 or whatever it is. I think with Lemuelu, the other thing to talk about is that, he gets through a heap of work. He's fantastic. But the amount of tries he's scored so far, like, you got to remember as well, he's had 3 ball players on that edge. He started off with SOS, then he got MILF, now he's got Cody Nikorima. Like, for him coming into first grade, learning how to be a back rower, to have 3 different guys there, he has done so well. And you can hear Wayne loves him.
Mate, and each week just growing in confidence. He's just going to get better.
If Wayne was to move on to another club, I guarantee
He'd take
you
him for sure.
he'd take him.
What's so just greatness, like we're witnessing greatness about the Dolphins is when they said we are not going to break the bank or sign people or get desperate because we're trying to lay the foundations for the next 10 years. And a lot of people go, yeah, that's PR spin because you didn't get the big dogs, rah, rah. No, they meant it. They meant it. And I think that it does seem to be coming more to light that maybe the conversations in the rooms with the superstars he was trying to recruit were a bit uncomfortable for some of those superstars. Maybe Wayne did challenge them and they thought, I'm on big coin at my own club. I'm just going to do my own thing at my own club. And I'm not talking about anyone specifically. I'm talking about all the players that sat down with Wayne. Wayne probably did challenge them and say, mate, you need to go to another level if you come here, rah, rah. And they thought, you know what? I'm on a big coin at my old club, at my current club. I don't want to move. It's a challenge. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm winning comps or I'm winning games or whatever it is. And so maybe the yarn around him saying he's going to challenge everyone and, I think we're seeing it's probably true.
I was just thinking before, like you think about Wayne. I think Wayne's written 2 books already. And you think about, what he's done all the way from the 80s at the Canberra Raiders, then the 90s at the Broncos and the Dragons and everything. Like this next 2 or 3 years.
There's a book being written right now by Andrew Webster.
That doesn't shock me in the slightest. And I think if Webby's smart, he'll push that back a few more years to see how this plays out.
Yeah. It's crazy how he can write a book and coach a team, the Warriors. I don't know how he does it.
Good at what he does, Webby.
Bloody hell, Andrew Webster. I think you're right in regards to see how it goes, but I think he's got a deadline for it.
Okay.
But make sure to go get it because it's got all this in it. You've got everything in it.
Smart by Wayne. Just allow him to write another book.
Yeah, he'll just write another book, make some more
It'll
coin.
be interesting to see what the Dolphins... Well, they obviously had a lot of conversation with a lot of stars 12 months ago. I'd love to know if there's any guys they have another conversation with where they go, okay, this is us now.
Yeah.
You're not the basket case we thought you'd be. I'm going to offer you $200K less.
Yeah. Price is different today.
Yeah.
But anyway, incredible stuff from Dolphins. Love to see it. Now on to the Sharkies. Oh, man, talk about a roller coaster. Last week I said, I don't know whether, was it Manly they tailed up? Who did they tail up last week? Oh, my God. Cowboys. And the first thing I said was, I don't know whether Cowboys were really poor or Sharkies really good. And look, my stance hasn't changed on that. I think the Sharkies were outstanding. But, geez Louise, they were poor on the weekend. Does it mean that they aren't a premiership threat? No, I don't think so. I still think they're a premiership threat. But I do think if they want to give themselves the best chance of winning this comp, we all know you have to finish in the top 4. They got to get this kind of game out of their system. It can't be like this towards the end of the year. It really can't. It's something that Cam Smith has said, and I've heard you say it before off the back of Smithy, and he's been saying it for years, that your in-season form always reflects the finals. And something when I first heard it years ago, I sort of thought, oh, fuck, I don't know about that. But it becomes more and more true every single year. And it's a big part of the reason why I was so strong on my stance on Parramatta last year, because I couldn't trust them. So I knew I couldn't trust them in the big games. Cronulla, I think they're a premiership smoky as well, but I mean, they conceded 30 points and a half the other day. I know, he's wild. And we're not talking about a year or two ago where the rules were crazy and you could just get a bunch of points put on you.
Find me a player in the Dolphins back line that you would pick over the player opposing them for the Sharks.
Yeah, no.
There isn't one.
Except for maybe Hamiso over Kennedy, but I'd argue they're equal at the moment in regards to...
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been just saying.
I agree. Yeah. But even that one, it's like, I don't know, like...
I think they're relatively even.
Yeah, there is not a single player that you would definitely go, yep, I'll have him over him. 30 points in a half.
Wild.
They're missing their halfback.
It is... missing their halfback, captain, front rower too. And I know that they're missing Toby Rudolph and Hammond Yoele. But... they just got to, if they want to win a comp, they can't be having games like this because, as I said, you drop a game like this, at the end of the year, you're going to look at you're going to be sitting maybe 6th, and they're going to go, oh my God, we missed the 4 by 2 points.
Well, you made Guru the Eels comparison last year with the fluctuating form. I don't think at this stage it's as fluctuating as Para last year, and even this year where they're just up one week, down the other. But you definitely get the same vibes, don't you? Para, did they win 3 or something or 4 on the trot to sneak into the 4 last year? And they won that. They jumped ahead
It
of
took Storm's terrible form to get them into the 4.
The Storm's terrible form, and they went from 5th to 4th or 6th to 4th or something that last round.
Yeah.
So they can't put themselves in that position where they have to do that if they genuinely want to win the comp.
Yeah, well, it took Storm the form, but it also took the Broncos falling off a cliff as well.
Yeah.
That looked like they were locked in for a top 4
Yeah,
spot.
it's a good point. So, is it disaster? No. Is it panic stations? No, of course not. But if you want to be a premiership threat, got to get this stuff out of your season.
And you're right, it's not a disaster. But if I'm Fitzgibbon, I'm going, fuck, we spoke about this all off season.
Yeah.
That in these big games, which credit to the Dolphins, they're a big game now when you come up against them at Suncorp. We can't concede 30 points. They did it in a half.
And I will say, I feel like I'm putting the boot in, but unfortunately, the Sharks in big games, all the way back to last year, have not delivered. You know, they had that game, they should have sewn that game up against the Cowboys in the finals last year. At home, they were ahead. And look, I understand down below, they were running that crazy line. Yep, I get it. But I'm yet to see them deliver in these big games. And Magic Round is a big game. It's a huge crowd, 40,000 people. So,
especially on that day, the conditions were perfect for Sharks.
Oh, it was Sharkies footy all day.
Yeah.
Sharkies footy all day. So, as I said, it's not panic stations. And I guess we always have to remember too, like a couple of years ago, they weren't even in the 8. So maybe this is just growing pains. Maybe this is about setting standards, getting used to it. But positives were Cam McInnes bloody made 59 tackles and missed 0. In today's game, that is, and he ran for nearly 100 metres. Teague Wilton, 7 tackle breaks, 114 metres. I will say Hines, love him to death, but was really quiet. I just wonder, was he carrying an injury or a little niggle? Just didn't seem like his normal dominant self. Now, to be fair, their completion rate was absolutely abysmal, 66% or something. So very hard to build any kind of momentum. And he still did run for 127 metres. But I just didn't think it was as dominant as we've seen. And he had 5. It didn't feel like a normal Hines performance. Anyone else stand out for you guys?
The other one I want to give a shout out to, and I know that it's the most common argument on Twitter and internet and whatever, that Siva Talakai played one good game, but fuck, it's centre on the weekend. He ran for 240 metres. He might not be doing what he did to Manly every single weekend, but the bloke averages almost 200 run metres at centre.
He's having a great... And some people say, defensively, they let tries in that edge. Yeah, fair, but I mean, fuck. When he's doing that much in attack, jeez... He can't do everything.
And you know what? This is why I didn't. I've loved Siva forever, but I didn't think he'd last at centre because defensively, I thought he'd be a nightmare. He's not perfect, but I'm not sure if he's any worse than a lot of other centres in the game.
Yeah,
defensively.
I agree. And tackle efficiency wise, he's decent. I wouldn't say he's the problem on that left.
I think that if Sifa wasn't a back row that turned into a centre, people wouldn't focus on him so heavily.
Yeah, in regards to his defence.
And if he wasn't the biggest guy on the field too.
Yeah.
The damage on the edge this season has been going a lot through Wilton and Moiser. Hasn't got to Talakai a lot of the time, so I don't think he's the issue there.
But it's a classic where people want to blame Sifa.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right, it is this weird, they don't want to be... He's just in this weird spot where, because he had such a crazy run of form and that crazy game, it's almost they don't want to admit that he's still playing good footy. It's weird. It's just weird. He set himself such a high standard that unless he does that again, he's just not that good. But we're talking about 24 runs, 242 metres, 97 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, a line break, 2 line break assists, 2 offloads. 2 try assists.
His quietest game this year at centre was 126 run metres. There would be so many good centres in this competition that wouldn't average 126.
Yeah.
His last 4 weeks have been 212, 146, 201, 242.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. So hopefully they can bounce back. Oh, I mean, I know they'll bounce back. I know that the Sharkies will bounce back. Be interesting to see who they play next week. Oh, yeah, it is Manly.
Yep.
Big. What a clash. Oh.
Last game of the week.
2 teams that absolutely need to turn up. Obviously, Broncos touched up Manly. And then Sharkies got towed up by Dolphins. Like, talk about a huge clash.
It's going to be an awesome game to watch.
Oh, mate, I cannot wait for it. Probably going Sharkies. But yeah,
I know that we're on to the Sharks now. Just Dolphins too, just something. They've got a bye this weekend, so they're sitting 5th overall. They haven't had a bye yet either. Just to add another layer to how impressive it is what they've done.
It is. I just can't believe it. So not panic station Sharkies, but I do think if they want to take that next step into that top tier of club, got to get these games out of their system. Look, if they went up there and they lost 16-10 to the Dolphins, sweet. But going up there and completing at 66% and just not even looking like themselves, that's the concern that I have in regards to.
I'm very keen to see how Craig Fitzgibbon handles this year because, like, in my mind, no matter what the Sharkies do during the regular season this year, there is still going to be in the back of their mind, we killed it last year. We didn't fire a shot come finals. We conceded 30 points 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
I wonder what he's going to do to be able to overcome that.
Now, before we get into it, Vernon Street Cellars in South Kingsville, owner Ben has Bloke Lager and 6-packs on a deal with a free Bloke keyring. You can't buy them, I'm pretty sure. You can only get them in the store. IGA Macedon, they have Bloke Lager stocked up. Clarinda Cellars stocked up with Bloke Lager and the Midi. Bodlow Hastings, Chris, the manager, is stocked up with Bloke Lager and Midi. Wishing Well Tavern in Curram. Owner Peter is pouring Bloke Lager on some ripper deals. So it's on tap at Wishing Well Tavern in Curram. And there's some ripper deals on the lager. Louis Liquor in Cairns. All Superbarn stores in Canberra. That's right. All Superbarn stores in Canberra now stock Bloke. We're trying to get it in more stores in Canberra as of like a couple of weeks ago. So make sure, if you love the Bloke beer, to get down to your local in Canberra and give her a crack, because then we can get it into more stores and make it easy for you to get. So that's Super Barn stores in Canberra, Courtyard Bar in Cairns Esplanade, Hervey Bay Hotel, and the Normanby Hotel. Now, on to the next match. Rabbitohs defeat the Storm 28-12. What a performance by the Rabbitohs. And when you look at... Oh, fucking shut up, Matthew. Matthew, shut up. You could hear him have an orgasm from the bloody back. Jesus.
Saturday night was a long night for a lot of reasons.
Oh, my God.
You should have seen him watching the game next to Clutzy. He's a Melbourne fan, right? Fuck, Matty was carrying on.
Oh, mate.
Should have heard him post-game. He just kept walking around going, who's going to beat us? Who's going to beat... Tell me, who's going to beat us? And I was like, I don't know.
What a fantastic performance by the Rabbitohs. They've now got the scalps of Penrith, Broncos, Storm.
Yeah. They've beaten everyone in the top 6.
Beaten everyone in the top 6. Not only that, had arguably the hardest opening to the start of the season. On top of that, could you read out their next month of rugby league, please?
Yes, one.
They've done it with missing players. They're missing forwards.
Missing forwards.
Every game just about.
So, Tigers, Eels, Raiders, Titans, Dragons, bye.
I mean, they could genuinely pick up 4 or 5 of those, if that was 5 games, if it was 6, whatever.
After that's Cowboys, Warriors, Dogs, so, yeah.
They have genuinely the best opportunity in a while to be minor premiers, because their run now is relatively decent. They've got, is it 3 buys towards the end of the year?
3 buys towards the end of the year. Already played Penrith and Storm twice.
Yep.
So
like, when you're looking at minor premierships, right now for me, Rabbitohs are the favourite. They look unbelievable. They've done every single top dog team. They towered the Broncos up. I mean, it was a dominant display against the Storm. I felt like they controlled that whole game. I didn't really feel like Storm were... I mean, they were in it, but I was not that worried for the Rabbitohs. Look, as I said, this is the best the Rabbitohs have looked at this time of year, in my opinion, even whilst Wayne was coach. I think they look absolutely fantastic. They're so well-rounded. They've got Isaiah Tass, who has found his feet. They've got Campbell Graham, obviously career best form at the moment. Cody Walker, killing it. Latrell, killing it. Lockie Elias doing his job. Cookie, back to his best. You got Burgess coming off the bench. That's how good your forwards are. the Rabbitohs right now, and look, the Rabbitohs are known to go up and down, so in a few weeks we could be sitting there going, holy shit, what happened? But right now, with what we've seen, that crazy start to the season where I'm sure a lot of Rabbitohs fans were sitting there going, this is bullshit that our draw is so hard to start the year, but they got through it, and now it's a blessing. Guru, speak to me.
I just love the way Cody Walker's playing. I know I mention him every week, and I will continue to mention him every single week, but I am really looking forward to this origin period where Latrell will go, Cam Murray will go, I assume Damien Cook will go.
I think right now Cookie's got that spot back.
Yeah, I didn't think there was a hope in hell Cook could get it. I think I have to fall on my sword there. I think he will get it now. Arrow will go, as you said, and I just think Cody Walker at the moment, for the first time in a long time, it's going to be his team during that period. And I just think he is in such good touch and he is so confident at the moment that I cannot wait to see him take over this side for a month. So, and I agree with you. I the whole season I've been looking at the Sharkies as a minor premiership side because they won't lose anyone to Origin except maybe Nico. But I think Souths are a really good shout. And I mentioned it to Matty the other night. Obviously had injuries in the forwards and stuff. I reckon when Havili gets back, he makes such a difference to that footy side. When he gets back and he's coming off the bench, I think Souths are genuinely the real deal this year.
Yeah, I'm convinced right now that they're absolutely the real deal. Obviously, long season, and a lot can change between now and the finals push. But as I said, even under Wayne, I don't feel at this time of the year we've seen Souths looking this complete and this ready to go. I think they're ready to win a premiership right now.
And when you say this complete, like the halfback has still got so much growth in him. He's done well, but he's still got so much more growth in him. So, like, you don't even know if this is the best we've seen of them. And I think Latrell's been playing well, but he's got more levels to him.
100%, he's got more levels. Can we just talk about that try assist?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So, Charlie Mitt, 6'4", 105 to 10 kilos, huge, like just a huge body. Gets down to dummy half, gets up, goes to pass it, realises, oh, something might be on here, puts a grubber in that most dummy halves that practice this grubber every single day at training, hit feet, goes too long, goes too short, nails the perfect angle. And one thing that people aren't realising is he did it off his right foot. Guess what foot he is? He's left-footed. That is unheard of what we just saw from Latrell Mitchell.
Do you reckon every football that's ever played number 9 saw that and just goes, you arsehole?
You mother, you 100%. 100%. Threading that needle for a full-time hooker is hard as it is. To do it after looking up dummy and going, oh, Cody Walker's running a good line here, and then grubbering it off your bad foot at that angle where one bounce straight into his hand as well. All of these little details, like...
And it's those little things that when you say, he's not like Teddy, he's not like Turbo, he's not. But there's shit that he can do that essentially no one else can.
No one else can
We
do.
just made that about hookers. Like, the amount of time that first-grade hookers would spend practicing stuff like that, and Latrell just does it off the top of his head.
Off his wrong foot.
Yeah, seemingly, like, I'm not convinced he has a bad foot, but just effortlessly.
Mate, what a bloody try. It's just... He scored a bloody try off his own bomb.
Crossfield kick.
Crossfield kick. Just like chases, yep, bomb comes around, try time.
Yeah, like the best thing about that kick, and you see them every few weeks, but occasionally you see a kick where you go, we couldn't have stopped that. There was nothing we could have done in that moment. That was just simply too good.
Yeah, so good. What do you reckon about the Rabbitohs, Timmy?
So, if you haven't worked it out yet, I've found a mad site that gives you stats of where on the field they're all scored. So,
What's the name of that site?
So get used to it. Stats Insider.
Yep.
Really, really cool breakdown of it. And I was like, when I found it the other week, I was just going back and went, oh, it's like a Bible type thing. So I went back and looked at all the question marks I'd been having around edges and whatnot. Talking about the Bunnies attacked left and right edge. Last season, unsurprisingly, 48% of their tries down the left edge, 30 on the right. This season, 37% left edge, 55% right. It's flipped on its head. And so you talk about it being a complete team and how balanced they are in attack and how they've got lethal attacking threats across the entire park. Well, there you go.
Oh, mate. I mean, and look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but their back row is Cheekham and Host. Both blokes playing out of their skin. We're talking about two blokes that, if they were before this year, if they went on the open market, both those guys, they may struggle to find a club. Like, that's how hard it is to get into a top 30 squad right now. And they're literally the back row right now for a team that it's got to be we'll watch over the next month how they go, but they've got to be close to one of the favourites for minor premiership. They've got to be.
One of the best things about it as well. So I tipped the Bunnies from the start of the week, and I was like, yeah, the form they're in, why wouldn't you, even if it is Melbourne? Then I saw it, the closer it got to the week, and we're going, teams off the bye this year are thriving for obvious reasons. They've won just about every time, give or take, I think maybe 2 games, who are big outsiders. So I thought, a fresh Storm side against the Bunnies, who have been up for a fair while now. Like, something's got to give. Stuck by the Bunnies, thankfully, but to do it against a fresh Storm side with majority of their players back after having an injury hit start of the season, just all the more impressive.
So good. And what's bizarre is, like, probably Campbell Graham's quietest game. And they still did that. That's what we talk about. We talk about balance. They can do it. Their superstar goes quiet, and all of a sudden, boom, they do it. It's just amazing. Damien Cook, I just want to give a shout out to him. At the start of the year, I predicted that he would have a big year because I knew how much it would sting him to have that jersey taken from him in regards to Origin. Obviously, he still played, but they took him more as an impact with Api Coruscant. Australia didn't get a look in. And look, I understand. I do believe still Harry Grant is the best hooker in the game, but I just knew it would sting Cook. I think right now, and it's still a little bit away, but I think you'd lock him in at the 9 for Origin, wouldn't you?
You play him 80 minutes?
With Hines on the bench, probably. Just depends who you put at that 14 role, especially with Jackie Whiten.
So you're thinking they will go Jerome Luai at 6?
Oh, I just need to see. After last week, I'm thinking Hines is going to, if he keeps this form up, he's going to steal that spot. You know what else? And this Matty Johns has said this is prior to this week. He likes Cody Walker at 14, and I'm starting to not mind that as well. I mean, I know that a lot of people, I don't know, look, did he set the world alight in Origin? No, but I didn't think he was that bad at all in Origin, Cody Walker. Just depends who that 14 was. What would you go, Cookie and Appy? Would you rotate?
I want to get Hines into the side somewhere. I'm undecided whether that's 6 or 14, but I'm not sure if we can afford to go 2 hookers and Hines on the bench against your Queensland forward pack that everyone's almost in career best form at the moment.
What'd you do?
Yeah, Appy deserved the spot last year for sure, but I would think I was always in the camp of, even on this show, of keeping Cookie. So I'd keep Cookie. I'd be happy for him to play 80. I think he'd be fine. And I'd have Nico at 6.
Nico at 6?
Yeah.
And who would your 14 be?
Yeah, well,
or would you just go for a big forward pack?
No. I'd pick a utility.
He's going to ring Jack Whiten for the 50th time this month.
It brings you into if Jack's gone, Matty Burton has to come into the conversation.
Yeah, I can see that.
Covers just about everything.
What about a Reece Robson at 14? I know he hasn't, Cowboys have struggled, but you could put him at 13 for sure, even front row, because he's got a similar build to Cotter. Maybe you get that out of him.
I mean, I was going to say, actually, the concern with... Look, I haven't entirely thought through my 1 to 17 and listed out at the Blues, but talking about Cookie and who plays 9 if he was to go down, but at the moment, it's the same with the Bunnies, isn't it? And if he goes down, Cam Murray goes to 9. So Blues have got Cam Murray. It's the same thing.
Yeah, fair. It's the Rabbitohs are looking in the type of footy that they're playing, and it's just so good to watch. What about Cam Murray coming off just strapped up, battered as anything? I will say, if I got to be super nitpicky, the first little knock he got, and you were up by 20 with whatever to go, I would get him off. Just get him off.
Don't kill him.
That's.
I liked with the Broncos. I said, don't run Haas into the ground.
Yeah. Pretty
sure he played a fair few less minutes because they got that big lead on the weekend.
Yeah.
Good, you've got the win. Give him a break.
You got the win, I reckon. If there's 5 to go or 10 to go and we're 20 up or something, I just get him off. You can always chuck if the momentum swings quickly. You can always get him back out there. But it's hard. He is their captain, so maybe you overcalled it or something.
I was talking to a few people across Magic Round about the Blues side and whatnot, and was saying that it's hard because Isaiah has to be the 13, especially if Nath Cleary's the 7. You have to go with Isaiah at 13. But then Cam Murray, he's got to be there. He's an Origin player. He has to be there somewhere, and we put him on the edge. And I think he's a much better middle than what he is an edge player personally. And now someone said to me on the weekend, like, geez, I would just pick him as a bench middle forward. And I straight away went, no, he just needs to be on the field. But fuck, the more I think about it, the more I don't mind that logic.
Well, that's Mal Meninga's logic was that.
Yeah.
Was I'm going to put him on the bench and just bring him in through the middle for quick play the balls.
And that's what he does best. He's the best in the game at doing it.
The only thing I'd say, reverse that, it looks like Fafita's going to get that spot. And Murray did a job on Fafita a couple of years
That's fair.
ago.
Yeah.
True.
Defensively, so good. So I think you can't go wrong either way with Murray. He's going to deliver. He always delivers in Origin. I always go back to when that Origin series, I think that was unlosable or whatever, first like 10 minutes, boom, Cam Murray hamming.
Yep.
And I think he was people didn't appreciate how important he is to the squad.
And when he did the job on Fafita, like what? I shouldn't say people go wrong with it, but they try and go high and he just goes, see you later.
Yeah.
Easy to say that because good luck going low on him as well.
Yeah.
But that's what Cam did, eh? He
Yeah,
went low and just
kept chopping
chopped him.
And he was always in his face as soon as he got the ball. Yeah. So he had no time to think. Tom Burgess off the bench, doing a great job. 155 metres, 15 runs in 46 minutes.
Isn't Demetrio, he's a real artist with his interchanges, the way that he builds his side with who he starts and who he does. But like, there's a real science to what he does.
Well, I mean, the fact that Jairo isn't starting.
Which normally we would sit here and go, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why isn't Arrow and Tom Burgess starting? But he gets that the game is broken down into little 20-minute clashes, and he wins those little battles by picking the right guys at the right time.
Well, it's like we've spoken about quite a lot on the podcast, but it's no longer your best 13.
Nope.
You got 17 players, and you got your best 17, and a bench player. It used to be 15 years ago, your bench players were players that weren't as good as your starters.
Yeah.
Now you've got players on your bench that are better, sometimes better than your starters, but it's all about timings, impact, all that kind of stuff.
And I think it used to be so important to win the first 20 minutes. I still think it is. But I think that next 20 minutes is so crucial in our game now. Like, it's all good and well teams to go out and bash each other when everyone's fresh. But when you get past that 20-minute mark, you know, with Parramatta when they bring on Ryan Madison, you know, if we're the Blues and we can bring on Cam Murray in that period, I think it's so important. You look at Melbourne when they've been successful the last few years. Brandon Smith, when they brought him on, was so important.
Change the game
Just to have
every time.
impact.
When they won the comp, their bench was so crazy. Finucane, Tino, Cheese,
Hines.
and Hines.
Didn't have his Hines.
Fucking hell. So, yeah, Rabbitohs, great stuff. Now, on to the Storm. Oh, just lacked the punch. Just lacked that punch that they normally have. Like, you know, a few weeks ago, we saw them play a really good game against, so many games now, I can't remember. But it was against a quality side. Storm came out. Was it Roosters? Yeah, towed up Roosters. And we're going, yep, boom. They're back. We're good to go. I'm not saying they're not back at all, but Nelson Asafa-Solomona was back. Christian Walsh is back. Please let me know if they've got injuries. Maybe check their injury list. Relatively full strength at Suncorp, where they have a good record, so the Suncorp thing is not an issue. Quite disappointing performance.
Well, I mean, even the 2 tries they scored, like Raymond Smith's was a knock-on by South Sydney they scored off. Bronson Garlick scored for a dummy half, didn't he? Like, it's just... I never felt like they were in that game. I never felt like they were going to win that game at any point.
Well, it honestly just looked like Rabbitohs were playing finals footy and Storm were playing club footy. That's what it sounded like. I don't mean club footy as in local league. I just mean it was a big game to Rabbitohs, but Storm it may have been a big game to them, but it didn't seem like they were playing in a big game.
And even at half-time, like, South Sydney went in 12-6. I was so confident they were going to get the job done.
They just controlled it the whole game.
I just had no doubt the entire time.
And so looking at this Storm side now, their spine is so good that you just cannot count this team out. Then you've got Nelson Asafa-Solomona, who we know what he can do. Christian Welsh, we know what he can do. But, yeah, they're a very tough team to measure. I don't know where they stand right now. Like, I don't have them in my top 4. I mean, I didn't have it at the start of the year either. But they are the Melbourne Storm. It's
going to be an interesting few weeks. They're sitting in 6th place right now. play the Broncos on Thursday night.
Oh, that's going to be a cracker.
Give me a cracker, but like if they were to lose that one, you're looking at them sitting 7th and 8th coming into the Origin period. Never really been in that spot before.
I mean, it's a must-win for Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
If they they'll get up for it. I mean, Storm always get up for Brisbane, and Brisbane usually get up. Well, Storm have a very good record against Brisbane, a very good record. But in regards to this game, look, it was no one's singular fault. I will say, though, Xavier Coates, for me, just, I don't know, does Storm suit him as a club? Which is bizarre to say, but I'm just unsure of...
Storm haven't lost to Brisbane since 2016.
Yeah, they
Wow.
always get up for him.
I did not know
Always
that.
get up for him. It might be because Bellamy used to be a coach there. And
Well, wasn't there a pretty similar record against the Bunnies going into the weekend?
Yeah, against South, Storm have only lost to South like 6. That was their 7th loss ever, I'm pretty sure. And
I
never
mean,
lost
they
to
lose
Melbourne.
they lose so little, like fucking normal.
I think that's a good opportunity for you guys to go into the game this week.
Yeah, I know.
Hey?
Huge opportunity, especially Kevy Walters being so like when he was at the Broncos, he didn't get beaten by really anyone.
And matchup wise, it really fascinates me going into the weekend because you've said all year the question marks around. You mentioned first thing off the bat in this game was just lacking the punch, lacking through the guts. And we've questioned all year their forward pack. I think I said last week, their reliance on Sofa Solomona. He's carrying a rib injury, ran for about 76 metres on the weekend. The matchup this week with Brisbane, who have this dominant forward pack, Melbourne have these stars in their spine, but keep saying, if your pack's not rolling forward, there's not much they can do. So it's where the matchup-wise you go, all right, if the Broncos forward pack turn up and don't let them into it, they might not get a chance. So
It's just it's about high completion rate, and just keeping the pressure on them, and then using our weapons to beat them. But back to this game specifically, what do you guys reckon about Coates? And I've spoken about him briefly, but I just he had 3 errors on the weekend. He just does not have, like, maybe he's struggling with injury but I just don't think since he's gotten down there, and I know he has struggled with injury since he's been there, but he hasn't really kicked on the way a guy like him should kick on. He is so talented, it's a joke.
Yeah, and you're right. He hasn't kicked on the way that I expected him to. I also find that I've thought this a few times over the last... How long has he been? Is this his second or his third year there? At least, anyway.
Second, I think.
Second, yeah. I've thought this a few times, and then he comes out and he scores 2 or 3. But I tend to agree with you, mate. I thought that he would be... Because he was really the first big guy since Mick Crocker, essentially.
Yeah,
They'd signed,
absolutely. And, obviously he wasn't on Crocker's level because he'd won a comp, I think, at that stage. But he's the biggest guy since Crocker, for sure.
He was already playing Origin, right? He'd already played Origin, done all that. So, yeah, I thought that he would be further on in his career than what he is. I'm not sure what they'd be paying him down there in Melbourne, but yeah, I'm not sure that they couldn't get what they're getting out of Coates from someone else.
13 runs, 112 metres, 2 tackle breaks, but 3 errors. And look, you don't lose because of a winger. I'm just more specifically talking about that. Look, I thought Remus Smith, I thought he showed a bit of fight towards the end in regards to just getting amongst it, a bit of niggle, which I think at least shows that he's almost angry that they're losing the way they are. Yeah, I mean, the whole team was quiet. It wasn't anyone specifically that I can point to and go, Munster was terrible, or Hughes was terrible, or Grant was terrible. The whole team just didn't seem like they were up for the contest. And it just the stop-start nature of the way their players didn't look fluid, the timing looked off. Yeah, I don't
know if that's a positive or a negative. Would you rather have X amount of things to blame it on, or... Yeah, I don't know.
I've got no read on the Storm because we know this is the Melbourne Storm.
If they hadn't, pulled your pants down year after year every time you doubt them, you'd be very off Melbourne.
Yeah, for sure. But they do it every year.
Yeah.
They do it every year. Every year we say this is it.
In 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 8 weeks, we're going to be sitting there going, why do we doubt them?
Yeah, why do we doubt them? So it's just but you have to call, like you said, really disappointing performance by the Storm on the weekend. Now, on to Tigers defeat the Dragons 18-16. What a win. And the way it ended. The takeaway I got from this game was, Luke Brooks, it's not like he's setting the world alight and, back to Dally M form or whatever. But I will say, ever since Dewey has been out injured, Brooks just seems more confident in the fact that it's his team. And that is absolutely not a knock on Dewey. I love Dewey as a player. But sometimes you can be, when the Tigers play and Dewey's playing, it looks like a Dewey side, which is fair enough. If he's the guy they want to have as the main guy, sweet. But I do think that I have seen Brooks be more involved. It just looks like he's more confident in getting the team around the park because he doesn't have that more dominant voice partnered with him. Because Dewey is so competitive. When he wants the ball, he's going to get it every single time. But I mean, there's still little things that creep into the game with like Brooksy that I go, what is going on? Like, for example, like why is Wakeham kicking for touch? That should be, if you're a dominant 7, as we want our sevens super dominant. Like they want to touch the ball all the time. Like little things like that where I go, Brooksy, you got to be kicking for touch. Even if he's a better kicker, like you're the dominant guy. But I have noticed over the last couple of weeks, he seems more confident on the footy field.
What's interesting to that point, Kempy, 2018, Brooksy halfback of the year, and I'd certainly never really considered it in the nature of their combination, but it was obviously the 2019 season, but 2020, he got to the Tigers, Dewey. And I know he played across different positions, but Brooksy sort of has never gotten close to the 2018 form, so might be on something.
It's not as absolutely not a dig at Dewey. It's just
Definitely
about
not.
combinations.
Yeah. Sometimes players don't work together for whatever reason.
And maybe Brooks just doesn't feel like it's his team. It's Dewey's team because sometimes Dewey's the only one out there ripping and tearing. And I'm just being honest. Like, maybe not this year, but the last couple of years, there's many games when Dewey is literally the only bloke ripping and tearing for him. And so I think that when Dewey does come back, they do need to try to find that balance between each other if Brooks continues his form, obviously.
To be completely honest, there is nothing that Luke Brooks could do for me this season that makes me think the Tigers and Luke Brooks should recommit to each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fuck.
And I agree with everything you've said. I think he does look better without him. Do I agree with all those things? And it worries me that this might be a marriage that continues off the back of that. It's my number one fear. And that's not having a crack at Luke Brooks. I've been saying it for years. Luke Brooks isn't right for the Tigers. The Tigers aren't right for Luke Brooks either. I think that is so evident. It's not even funny. Everyone can see it except for these two in this relationship. I almost want Brooks to play poorly the next 2 weeks so he can go somewhere else and make a new start. I really do. Because I think there's a footballer there. You've seen it the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I definitely think that, I'd hate for him to play solidly for the rest of the year and then they re-sign and he doesn't get an opportunity somewhere else. I definitely want him going somewhere else. Put it this way, in a perfect world, Dewey comes back from his ACL, they find a good partner to partner him, and that's the way they go forward.
It sounds like Dewey might not even be back until like the back end of next year. It's bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like so. That's what's going to make it really interesting now that they've re-signed him already.
Because I do think Dewey is a guy that you could build a club around. Like, I love him as a player. I really do.
But he's looking at 12 to 16 months, I think it was. Matty, can you have a look at that? It's something ridiculous, outrageous like that. So all of a sudden, if Luke Brooks is in the building going okay for the next few weeks...
There's no one else on the market.
There's no one else on the market.
Oh, my God. Surely not.
But who are they going to... Who's the halfback that they're going to trust to come in and do a job?
You just go and get the best halfback out of New South Wales Cup. If it isn't with the club, just try.
Yeah, so the Tigers head of high performance said 12 to 16 months.
Oh, fuck. I feel so sorry for Dewey. Dewey's genuinely one of my favourite players when he's playing. I love it.
And that, coming back from something that takes that long, what's Dewey's best part of his game? It's his running game.
And he's just a goer. Like, doesn't matter how much they're down, how much the club's under pressure, he rips and tears every minute of every game. I love Dewey as a player.
NRL physio requires 2 surgical procedures. First, to remove the old ACL graft and fill in bone tunnels with bone grafting. Second, to reconstruct the ACL. So it's one on top of the other. Oh, poor bugger.
Far out. Anyway, we'll talk about something positive. What a win by Tigers. Like, I feel like we're being negative when we
Fuck,
should
I
be
forgot
positive.
when we were talking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Unreal
Tykes.
victory.
Yeah. Unreal victory. And they can build off this. They were gutsy. They hung in there. Their forward pack looked as an elite level. Some of their players that aren't as big a names did a great job. Nofaluma was outstanding on the wing. Buller, as we said earlier, give this kid time to grow. He really could grow into a top, I don't know about top tier, but at least an NRL level, top 8, as in he's good enough of a fullback for them to make the top 8. He could grow into that. Stafford Toa, I think, is growing each week. Junior Tupou, we know how good he can be. Api Coruscant looks getting more comfortable. Papali'i, I mean, it was a really, really gutsy win by the Tigers. 2 on a trot. And, a lot of people try to take away from it because, it's the Dragons or whatever. I disagree. I thought the Dragons turned up to play. I don't think it was just this easy win because the Dragons played really poorly. I thought it was one of the Tigers' most gutsy performances of the year. And on top of that, they completed at 86%. That's all attitude. That's all attitude. That's all getting the job done, sticking it to your mates. Their forward pack ran for more metres. They had more post contacts. They had more line breaks, more tackle breaks, more kick return meters. Less missed tackles. That's a great game from the Tigers as to where they were at a club. In a big game as well at Magic Round, I thought a fantastic win and so good to build off. And when you see some of these other clubs and how they're going, all of a sudden it's not such a sure thing that the Tigers finish at the bottom of the table. It really isn't. And great win.
2 wins in a row. They got South Sydney this week. It'll be tough. Then they got the Cowboys. I mean, I think over the last few years, Maddie, you can probably talk more about it, but the Tigers have consistently got closer to the Rabbitohs than what they probably should be getting over the last few years.
It's been a crazy theme for a while now. Yeah. They beat us last year. So
and the beauty is that if they can find a way in this Rabbitohs game to get away with a win, play the Cowboys the week after, which is definitely winnable at Leichhardt, then they've got a bye. All of a sudden you can regroup.
Yeah.
Even if they can win 3 of these 4, well, they've already won 2. If they can win 1 of these next 2 and win 3 out of their last 4 going into a bye and then regroup for this season,
You could cross your
fans
fingers
to get excited,
Yeah.
but fuck, you're in a better spot than what you were 3 weeks ago. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And isn't it funny? As soon as you start to win, you heard any noise out of the Tigers last 2 weeks?
No noise. No noise. It's just they put themselves in such a good position now. Now they need to build on it. Stick with this attitude. I just want to shout out my boy Alex Twal. He was unreal on the weekend. Unreal. 56 minutes, 14 runs, 134 metres, 44 post contact, and 44 tackles, only 1 miss.
I would
Missed one.
Yeah, exactly. You're shocked.
Embarrassing.
We're all shocked. The whole NRL was shocked when he missed one.
I'd love to get some numbers from Sportsbet to find out how many people had a bet on him to score in Magic Round.
His Magic Round,
I'd
the
love to
vibe.
know. Yeah.
I love him as a player. I really, really do. He's the heart and soul of any team. Clemmer, I think, has been good. Just getting the meters that they need up through the middle. Papali'i was good. What do you think of their performance, Timmy?
Yeah, the best sign for me, you talk about how they've lacked just a side who have seemingly always lacked desperation, this will to win, how much it meant to them beating Penrith last week. When the Drags had that line break, it wasn't even a line break. Ben Hunt soccer balling it through.
Yep.
So, no knock on the fence. Couldn't have done anything about that.
Yeah.
Freakish bit of magic from Benny Hunt. Last second of the game, or last minute of the game, just the scramble from them.
Yeah.
You said Sully flicked it out the back, but there were Tigers' bodies everywhere around the ball.
Yeah. Went
out there, and Buller was the one who obviously sort of the driving force in the tackle on Ravalawa. But there were blokes everywhere just going, yeah, this is what we want to see. The desperation from them.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Dragons should have, in 9 out of 10 universes, Dragons score that try. They were down on numbers. They had a big body run at them, 2 big bodies run at them. And when Ravalawa goes to score that try, yes, Buller was the one that made contact, but nearly 2 to 3 other blokes fly over the top of him. That's what I saw in the trials. There was one game where they played like that in the trials. And they've done it after a win as well. So it's not like they got towed up last week and they're just desperate this week. They did it after a win, back-to-back wins. So
And when I would have assumed if we were sitting here talking about desperation moments where they stood up for the Tigers, it would have been all Johnny Bateman.
Yeah.
Wasn't even on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Junior Tupou, 124 metres, 7 tackle breaks again. Jeez, I love watching him play. It's just something about, like, every time he gets the ball, it's just exciting. There's something's going to happen, even though it may not. As I said, I think Stuff at Toa, we're just beginning to see the beginnings of a really solid centre. As long as they stick with him there. Stick with him there. Give him an opportunity. He's good. Great footwork. Nofaluma, he was outstanding, Nofaluma. I mean, he was, not only did he have the try assist in the try, he was also responsible for the line break that led to the other try. Like, it's just 151 metres, 7 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 3 offloads, David Nofaluma.
He had no right to score that try. There were
0.
bodies everywhere, and he somehow found a way through them.
So strong. So, yeah, great win. Like, yes, do they still have some Tigers errors in them where you go, what the hell? Like, the game's on the line, I think they're up by maybe 6 or whatever it was, and then, like, Wakeham doesn't make it out on touch, and you're just like, bruh.
That one, and just their finishes to set when they're attacking the line. I counted at least 3 times where they just threw it to a player who took the tackle, and you're like, what just happened?
It must be a directive. Maybe Tim Sheens has said, look, I'd rather get tackled than do a 7 tackle set.
Oh,
maybe.
that's a very negative attitude if it is.
Yeah.
Very negative attitude. Like, I know they've won 2 on the trot, but come on.
Let Brooks, like, Brooksy's been in the NRL long enough to be able to put a decent kick in.
Yeah.
And everyone be ready for the kick.
And as much as Wakeham isn't a superstar, he's been in the league a long time. Or in and around the league as well.
You have to back your halves to get a repeat set or put it in a cross-field kick to put him in an attacking position. Like, if it's a directive,
well, it has to be, surely, because they seem very content with just going, yep.
There was no blow-ups or arms going. I was just like, sweet.
There was none of this, like, are you serious? Give me the ball. But, like, so you still got the Tiger things that can happen, but there's so much positive. Like, think about it. Buller, outstanding. Junior Tupou, one of the most exciting young prospects when it comes to outside backs in the comp. You got Api Coruscant, an Origin hooker. You've got Papali'i doing his job, Clemmer doing his job, 12 coming off the bench doing his job, Toa starting to find his feet, Tommy Talau, hopefully he can get some games under his belt. I just think it's a great win and enjoy it, Tigers fans. Great win. Anything else on the Tigers, boys?
No, congratulations. Enjoy it.
Yep. Great win. Back to back. Hopefully they can get up for South. There's always drama in the South game. Remember that game where it was like Brooks really put it down and then Tom Burgess ran the length or something like that? Whatever happened. Now to the Dragons. Just, I feel like they've put themselves in this weird position when they came out and said that Anthony Griffin has to reapply for his job. It's almost like they're in limbo. Yep. It's almost like, let's make a call and head in a direction. Now, maybe that call is the Benny Hunt 1 to 9, because I actually think there is a bit of, I guess, merit to that decision. I mean, we've been calling it for a little bit in regards to maybe you do put Benny Hunt there and you get Sullivan and Amon some time together. We saw the brilliance of Sullivan, patches of it. What do you boys reckon about the Dragons?
I don't mind the Ben Hunt move, to be honest with you. I personally think it is his better position. I think he's a very good halfback. I think he's a better hooker. And I've been saying for the last few weeks, you watch Bud Sullivan in reserve grade, like he's begging to own a team. I think you saw on the weekend that if you back Bud Sullivan in, he will provide dividends for you. So I'm okay with them making that move. You have to keep with it.
Oh, mate, please. For the love of God, stick with it.
I said last week at my party, if you're going to put Bud Sullivan at halfback, it has to be his for 6 weeks. No questions asked. You cannot fuck around with them. You cannot move them around. Credit to Hook. I thought all week Ben Hunt's moving to hooker, but we weren't sure who was going to play halfback. I was so confident he was going to go Moses and By. Credit to him. And that's been my biggest criticism of Hook. He is consistently too safe. Credit to him. He did go with Bud. I thought in Bud's performance it definitely paid off. Didn't pay off on the scoreboard, obviously. But I think that there is a team here with that combo of Ben Hunt at 9, Bud at 7, Amon at 6. I think the Dragons can be successful with that for sure.
Well, I think they can at least build towards something, a direction as a club.
And I think that Ben Hunt has shown... Well, I know Harry Grant, he's probably the best hooker in rugby league, but if you said to me who's the hooker that can get closest to controlling a game like Cam Smith, I'm taking Benny Hunt.
He's so good. especially in Origin. He's fucking so good at 9. It's crazy. What do you reckon about the Dragons, Timmy?
I love the spine switch up. I think you said stick with it, let it progress. It'll need to because new combinations again. But yeah, I think it's just a positive move. All right, we're not going to accept that there's been some poor form and we'll keep sticking with the same routine. They've changed it up. All right, they got done by the Tigers on the weekend, but Sullivan was awesome. He scored 2 absolute crackers of tries. He looked confident. Like, he got up and about when he scored it. He was fired up. It was good to see. I think him and Amon will get a really good combination going over time. And I think it's something they can really build towards in the future. So, yeah, I'm all for it. And, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a common trend here of, these two will have a good combo. Like, they've played a lot of footy together as well. It's not like they're coming in blank canvas.
Yeah.
Like, they know each other inside out, these two. It's just about getting used to it at first grade level, which I personally don't think will take all that long, especially if you've got Ben Hunt getting him in the right spots, which he will.
I thought Jack DeBellin was outstanding for him in the middle there. 142 metres, 33 post contact, 53 tackles.
His defence is incredible.
Yeah, his defence is outstanding. I do think Sloan just needs to find a way to not have such a big gap between his not so good games and his good games. And the best way you do that is just by getting involved and taking carries. I know he's not the biggest body, I get that. But, just run the ball a few times just to get yourself in the game. I thought a few times there on the weekend, instead of taking it to the line and passing, he just gave, quite the easy option rather than, getting to the line, going through the hands, doing the right thing. So I do think you just got to find a way to get, because we saw at the Roosters when they were in trouble, Sloan was their man. Like, Jesus, he was good when he come on. So he's just got to find a way to, and this happens to a lot of young players. They need time. We have to remember Sloan, he's 20 games into his career, if that. Just got to find a way to shorten the gap between the best and his worst games. But now let's get to the Cowboys versus the Roosters. Finally, the 1 week where I'm like, nah, they're not turning it around. That's the Cowboys we wanted to see. A bit of ticker, aggression, good in the contact. And guess what? They had their most tackle breaks that they've had in like a month or so. And that's all attitude and aggression. And did they show spades of that? And every play that they got, all the boys running in and cheering and yahooing, and they're all on board. So I don't know what was said during the week. I don't know what has changed. But that's the Cowboys I thought was going to start the season. They were outstanding. They were gritty. They were tough. They played to the conditions. So I don't know whether they already had the idea to do that. But as soon as stars it pissing down rain, they just immediately went into, we're just going to play field position.
Yep.
And it paid off, and they killed it.
When that storm came in out of nowhere, Todd Payton must have just been licking his lips going, yes. This suits us so much more.
Just hand the keys to Chad.
Yeah.
Just win this for us, mate. Yep.
But that's what's surprising is, like, I feel like that Roosters pack is such a dog pack that they would embrace that.
It is, but they also love trying to move the ball and throwing it around.
Fantastic win by the Cowboys. Valentine Holmes, great as always. Chad Townsend just steered the ship, gave such a Chad Townsend performance, like just steered the ship exactly the way it needed to be, didn't overplay his hand, got field position, built pressure, and then let the boys do the rest. I mean, the outside backs for the Cowboys were phenomenal in regards to meter. 140 for Scotty, 156 for Felt, 169 for Holmes, 118 for Hickew, 134 for Talangi. Dearden, 134. So a lot of their meters came from their backs, and also a lot of their tackle breaks came from their backs as well. Great win, and you can build on this.
Speaking of building on it, Dragons, Tigers, Parramatta, next 3 weeks. 3 very winnable games.
Yep.
Like they can turn this season around very quickly if they want. Take a lot of confidence out of a game that was played in ugly conditions and whatnot. But they go back to North Queensland next week against the Dragons. Round 11 could be the week that we look at and go, okay, the Cowboys are back here. I hope so anyway.
Well, if they have a good month of footy, all of a sudden their season is just gone from an absolute disaster to we're around that 8 position, 8, 9, 10, and pushing for the 8.
Well, they go Dragons, Tigers, Parramatta, Storm, and then they've got a bye in round 15.
So the next month is season defining for them.
Yeah.
If they don't pull it out this next month, obviously it's just like they're done for the year. So this win couldn't have come at a better time. What do you think about the Cowboys, Timmy?
So good to see, wasn't it, for them? Such a gritty, tough win. They looked decent, put points on a really good defensive outfit in the Roosters. Thought Cohen Hess had a cracker.
Yeah.
And I've been critical of Cohen at times, but in a season where they haven't been great and he's had to chop and change between middle and edge and that, I thought he was arguably their best yesterday.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Cotter, we've already spoken about how good he was. Valentine Holmes, far out. He is just so good. He's such an elite outside back. Every big game, he steps up, gets through a mountain of work. Very easy for a superstar like him to be like, you know what? No, you give me good ball. I'm just going to sit out on my edge here. He's like, nah,
He
I'm getting
runs
involved.
so hard.
Oh, mate. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I thought Hylam Lukey, he missed a couple of tackles, but there was one that he made on Radley. It was a dead set try saver. I thought Radley was going to score for all money, and he's just a genetic. I think you might have said it before, show a genetic freak.
Oh, mate.
He is just
Gas tank for days.
If you get a chance, go and watch this tackle again. Radley is through and just about going untouched, and he just wrangles him in and just bodies him.
Yeah, it wasn't even like fell backwards and pulled him short. He grabbed him like almost flat-footed, almost backtracking, and just went nut and turned him the other way and just went bang and sat him on his ass.
Saw Radley play the ball, and he just went, "What the fuck?" just happened?
Yeah, what just happened? This large gentleman from ragdolled us. So look, really good stuff for the Cowboys. Finally, this is the team that we thought were going to turn up at round one, and they did for the first half, but just a gritty performance. And that could be the season-defining game. This could be the game where we look back and go, magic round is when the Cowboys went, nah, enough's enough. We are a top-tier side, and we're going to take it to other teams. Now, on to the Roosters. Very hard team to judge, just like the Storm, but for a different reason. Storm obviously have the history of proving everyone wrong. The reason why the Roosters are so hard to judge is because on paper, they're so stacked and so good that if they were to go on a run and win 10 games, absolutely nobody would be surprised. But to this point in the season, they're currently sitting 8th. With the roster that they have, and I know that they've had injuries and I know they have the ins and outs, I'm still not seeing. As I said, they can go on a massive run. Their roster is incredible. But disappointing.
Win, lose, or draw, we've been saying the same thing about the Roosters for 18 months now.
Yeah.
On paper, unbelievable. Just can't put it all together. Who's running the team? Is Manu meant to be a 5'8"? There's just so many question marks around this side. And, finally, the two Butcher boys are starting to look really solid there. And it's just as Satilli and Angus Crichton return into the side. So there's going to be more change to come.
And Angus played really good.
Yeah, 100%. I want to give a shout out to Billy Smith. Spoke about him last week and just sort of said they love him there. He's the example of, if you do the right thing by us, we'll back you. At centre, 182 run metres. He had 8 tackle breaks. He had 2 line break assists and a line break. And respectfully to Corey Allen, I reckon those stats could have been more if he had a winger with a little bit more toe on that side.
Mate, in your first game back after the amount of injuries he's had, it is nothing short of phenomenal.
And this is why they keep backing him. He is, and I still stand by it, he could be a rep centre within 2 or 3 years if his body just holds together.
Yeah.
I was number 1 in team move Suoli to left centre. I'm going to have to follow my sword. I'm not sure if it's working. I think you two might have been right for the first time in podcast existence. I think I'd be moving Suoli. I mean, obviously it's one game from Billy and I understand that, but I think Suoli, you're going to get more out of him, play him on the wing. I think I'd have a shot at giving Billy Smith another chance at left centre.
I like Suoliti on the wing.
Yeah.
He gets more opportunity to do the crazy runs out of his own end, meter eater, high ball, cross-field kicks. Yeah, just in centre, you've got to be humming as a team to be able to get him the good ball, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. As well as, who's on Joey Manu's side? Him?
So Joey Manu plays right with Suoli.
With Suoli. So, if you got Manu at 6, I highly doubt Suoli is going to see much ball.
Well, he didn't see much ball in this game yet.
Yeah, and so I just think, well, you may as well move into wing because at least he can come in and do the work and get the meters kind of thing.
Yeah, you have a look at Billy Smith. He had 17 runs. Suaalii had 6. And I don't think that's because Suaalii's hiding away from the ball. I don't think he doesn't see much of it because we've been saying this about Manu for a long time. He's a great footballer, but it's very Manu-centric.
Yeah. Well, and also, if he was on the wing, he could go in for the carries when coming out of his own end. But as a centre, you can't. You got to hold your width so the defensive lines don't squeeze up too much, so they don't jam you forwards. And so, I don't think anyone is sitting here saying Suaalii wouldn't want to touch the ball 30 times if he could. I think he should. From the get-go, I always thought he should stay on the wing, as you mentioned. And with Billy Smith back, if his body holds up, so good.
Please hold up.
Oh, please, because what a return. What a return. I just think the Roosters also have put themselves in a very strange position where the Manu situation, it's not like they can bring Walker just straight back in, because then it's like, well, what a waste of time. So they've got to stick with Manu at least for, 5 to 6 weeks, would you say?
I think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think Sam Walker played reserve grade on the weekend.
He was 18th man, I think.
He was 18th man. So, I mean, if they gave him...
he wasn't 18th man. He was part of the squad, though. He flew up with them.
Part of the squad, right. So, it's not like he was back in reserve grade this week. Just double-checking that. It's not like he was in... Yeah, he didn't play. It's not like he was back in reserve grade working on what he had to do. Sitting in the stands at Suncorp Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard one to work out.
I'll be honest. I watched the Roosters on the weekend, and I honestly thought it's the first time I've ever seen a team with too many guns. And I know it sounds stupid, and you know what? It probably is a stupid take. I'm willing to cop that, but that's what I just thought. That's what I thought. There's literally too many guns in this side, and there's not enough, 3 or 4 key players that are lead the team, and this is the direction we go.
But that's where I think, if you move Nat and Egan back in the middle, I think they sort of become those guys. I think that was one of their strengths last year, that those two just playing through the middle, whereas you moved them to the edge because you had to. They've both been pretty impressive the last few weeks.
See, the only thing I think defensively on the edge, they are outstanding, and maybe with more time they can be. I just don't know how devastating they are in attack.
Been, though,
yeah,
until
Egan the last 3 weeks has turned it around.
Yeah.
It was not
in attack, I just don't think they have the same upside as, say, an Angus. But
I agree,
defensively, shit, they're good in regards to their one-on-one tackles. So, as I said, I'm afraid to say that the Roosters aren't premiership threats because their roster is unbelievable. But I just haven't been... it's just not coming together, and we've been saying that for quite a while now.
Yep.
To touch on, to round up, everything you boys just said, because you touched on most of my biggest takes from the weekend. I would go, and I feel quite happy to say it, Suaalii back to the wing. I would go Joey Manu back to centre, because I don't think it works at 5'8". I know they won their last 2, but they just beat the Dragons, and then they won in bulk conditions in New Zealand. Good win, sure. Joey Manu, he takes Teddy out of it. That the sweeping plays that the Roosters do when they're absolutely humming, and it'll be Keary or Sammy York, whoever goes to the line, draws in defenders, and they go whack out the back and get Teddy a bit of space. Nails his 2. They don't get it. Manu goes to the line every time. He never passes to Teddy because it's not his game. He sort of half looks up and then goes, I don't feel comfortable doing this, and he runs it.
Well, what I find surprising about the Roosters is they go down this route of just guns everywhere. Just gun. And yes, they've always had guns, but the difference was in their back-to-back years, Cooper Cronk was the man, the guy. Everyone did what he said. Trell, he didn't take many carries. Joey Manu didn't take many carries either. And so back then, now obviously he's grown into a player that, demands a lot of carries. It was Cooper Cronk show, Teddy getting through 1,000 runs. And so that's why I'm so surprised that they've moved so far away from that style of footy. And to be fair, in the Roosters' defence, the game has changed dramatically since then. So maybe that is the reason why they've moved away from that. But when you look at their team back in the day, you're looking at Jake Friend, no frills, dummy half. Cooper Cronk, obviously, no frills, 7. One of the best to ever do it, though. Then you've got Mitch Orbison, no frills. Boyd Cordner, no frills. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like now it's more just superstar, like frills everywhere.
Can I ask then, we've been talking about this for weeks, months, almost years now. So many players everywhere, so much ability, just can't pull it together. Sam Walker's in reserve grade. At some point, do we have to look at the experienced ball player on this side? Because I feel like Luke Keary, no one ever seems to ask questions about Luke Keary or Luke's role. Like, I feel like if it was any other side or potentially another ball player, we would have said by now, what's the halfback doing? He's the experienced ball player in this side. I feel like no one ever talks about Luke Keary at all.
I think the reason for that is because last year they started him at 7, they put Walker to 6. Then they swapped it towards the end of the year.
Yep.
And they made Walker 7, him 6.
Yep.
And then they started this year him and Walker as 7 and 6. And so and on top of that, obviously he had the long-term injury in the head knocks. So he hasn't really had a long period as the main guy. To my understanding, that's why I think he doesn't get questioned.
I'd bring Sammy Walker back in. I'd give the keys to, when there's always this who gets him, who runs the show. I'd give him to Luke Keary, as I said, the experienced bloke. And I'd say you play central and run the show. I'd let Sammy Walker do sort of what Cody would do with Adam Reynolds, how he'd swing on the outside, but he was playing as the second receiver, not so much the first receiver. I don't think Sammy has to overplay his hand at the moment, still early on in his career. It's interesting you bring up when Latrell and Joey Manu at the Roosters, they were 6 to 10 runs a game type centres. Yeah. Now, at any other club, if you have them to at centre, you go, no, boys, we need more involvement in you. You're too good. But you're right, the Roosters have so many stars, they just don't need to be overplaying their hand. And Guru touched on it a few times in recent weeks, sometimes you just need to simplify it and dumb it down a little bit. There's just too much going on. And they keep trying stuff, but I think they need to simplify everything they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, mate. We spoke about this a few weeks ago. I think it was about a month ago, where it's just bring it all the way back, go back to real boring footy.
No, yeah, I'd be getting... Egan Butcher failed his HIA on the weekend, so he will be in doubt for this weekend anyway, and I believe it's maybe a 5-day turnaround, but Angus Crichton starting on the left edge again. He's looked really good. Yep. Scored that good late try. Whether you go Nat or Butcher or Satilli on the right edge, I'd probably go Satilli, but Nat has been good. Egan Butcher back into the middle for sure. There's just been a lot of changes, but it's worked for him in the past.
Yeah, I would be having Egan and Nat off the bench, even though it's so unfair to them, especially Nat. Nat has just been a goer, and I would be Satilli, Angus on the edges. Yeah. I would make sure Satilli's errors and defence is all sorted and all good. Angus, we know how good he is. It's really interesting because on Thurston's debut, he was like, I remember being out there, and I was like, and I'm paraphrasing here, guys, you can go listen to the interview, and I was wigging fuck, Darren Lockie, Cam Smith, fuck, what's going on? And he goes, Lockie and Smithy pulled me aside, or he might have said just Lockie, and he pulled me aside, and he said, Thurston, your job is from our try line up to the attacking zone is to lead the team around. When I ask you for the ball, you give it to me every single time. And I think they need to just, they probably already had that conversation, but that's what I may say with the Keary Walker situation is you go, Keary gets them to where they need to get to, and then whenever Walker wants the ball, he gets it and does his magic kind of thing. Maybe they need to get that simple.
I just think it's such an interesting situation that, as you said, they started last year with Luke Keary at halfback, got halfway through the year and went, this isn't working, switch them. And seemingly it looked like the answer.
It looked like it worked, yeah.
Now we're 10 weeks in and they've gone, hold on, Sam Walker's not the guy again. Yeah. Drop him back. Luke Keary's back to 7. I don't know. I personally feel like Luke Keary, and I understand what you said, that he hasn't played a lot of consistent footy and all that, but he's a 31-year-old halfback who's the experienced guy in this team. We constantly sit here, I find it bizarre that we sit here and go, and everyone sits here and goes, they've got so many star players, they just can't make it work. The experienced ball player never gets questioned.
Yeah, look, it's fair. It's fair. I think the fact that he's won 3 comps, I guess you don't really want to talk about.
I think that's part of why, but I don't think we've seen anywhere near the best footy over the last 2 or 3 years. And I understand he's been in and out of first grade. I get it, but he's there to win comps.
Yeah, fair. I do also think Sam Walker's situation is bizarre because he grew up as this is the guy.
Yep.
Every team he's in, he is the guy. He's going to win you the match. He's doing everything in the match. Everywhere he wants to get, you do exactly what he says. And I just wonder, and we saw last year when he was put back to 7 and it seemed like the keys had been handed off to him, that they went on that really good run. And yeah, you're right. Like it feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Now all of a sudden he isn't the guy, and maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's stuff going on that we don't know about. Right. But the Roosters just find themselves in the pickle. As I said, stupidest take in the history of rugby league. But do they have too many guns? Like,
I don't think it's that dumb.
Do they have too many guns? I don't know. But not panic stations. Still in the 8. We all know they absolutely, put it this way, if they came out next week and they win every single game all the way to the grand final, that wouldn't shock me one little bit. That's how good their squad is.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I guess the concern is that every year since they're back-to-back, we've at least for the last 18 months or so, we've kind of been like, I just don't know what's going where, with the clicking and everything. Anyway, now Titans defeat the Eels. Holy. Titans get the job done. I love this. And yeah, the Eels scored that late try, but I do think that the Titans controlled a lot of this game in regards to there was a period there where it looked like an Eels fight back, and then the Titans turned the game back on its head, kind of skipped away with it, and then the Eels came back into it. But what a great win from the Titans. What a great win. And it's finally beginning to realise, I mean, they've always realised it, but I guess the fruits of their off-season where they focus on defence, we're seeing it because they kept a team, yeah, it's still 24 points, but at least it's not bloody 34, or whatever it is. And that last try, really, you're looking at, 26-18? If you take out their last-minute try or whatever it was. What a great win. Foreign with the double. Pereira with the double, but could have given Fozzie's bloody third. Holy.
What do you reckon the odds were for a Foz hat-trick within 20 minutes?
Oh, imagine blokes had Foz for a hat-trick. It's got to be the biggest diehards ever. It's Foz's time. He's going to do it. I thought the Titans were absolutely fantastic. I loved their defence. I love the fact that Tino, Moe, David Fafita, these guys are starting to become the top tier in their position. We know Tino is. We know Fafita is. I think Moe, as you said, Guru, is fantastic. I also want to give a shout out to Chris Randall. I think he's been outstanding since coming in. And it shocks me that the Knights were even considering letting a guy like this go on minimum, but can come in and do a job the way he's done. Obviously, the Foz dog scoring 2 tries. He's never looked quicker. He's never looked stronger. He's ready to go. A couple of meaties. But yeah, some of the stats especially the defensive stats. Like this is their front row. So Moe Fodawaker, 30 tackles, 0 misses. Chris Randall, 41 tackles, only 2 misses. Tino, 44 tackles, only 2 misses. Fafita, 26 tackles, only 2 misses. Simpson, 32 tackles, 0 misses. And Liu, 26 tackles, only 2 misses. Like, that's all defence. I'm telling you, go look at some of the other teams that won this weekend, and you'll see 26 tackles, 5 misses, or 30 tackles, 5 misses. That's a good defensive effort against a tough team to defend in the Eels. What did you guys think of this game?
We sort of spoke about it off mic before, and as a New South Welshman, I fucking hate it, but just as a general fan, I love seeing what Fafita's doing at the moment. And I want to put a lot of it down to just the influence of Foz. I think that has made a huge difference to him, and I think we mentioned the nosebleeds last week. Obviously, Beau Fermor getting injured sucks. It's awful, but geez, I reckon it's been the key to unlocking Fafita.
Yeah,
putting him next to Foz and him just teaching him little things about the game that I think Fafita's realised. One, how good he is, but how good he can be.
Yeah,
and he's putting his hand up and he's doing the tough stuff, which. 15 hit-ups on the weekend. It's just great. There was times last year we were sitting here going 6 hit-ups. You got the most damaging player in rugby league having 6 hit-ups on an edge. What is going on here? And Fafita, he's just turned it all around. I've been so impressed with him, and I just want to say I'm proud of him, which would have been fucking weird. But I genuinely am.
I am, because he copped so much. And look, rightly so, $1.2 million tag in regards to he didn't sign himself. Like, you're not going to say no to the massive contract. But if you were to make the argument of is he playing worth 1.2 million? I could go there with you and be like, okay, yeah, maybe he's not. But what I love so much about this is after re-signing and taking less money. Like, no one's talking about that. The fact that he said, no, I'll take less money and stay, almost as if to repay the Titans for showing faith in him. This guy's 22 years. How old is he? 22? Pretty sure he's 22 years old. He's a baby. 23? So takes less money, as I said, almost as if to repay the Titans, and then he's playing like this after he signed his contract. Because everyone, I guarantee you, the knock on after he signed his contract, oh, here we go, now he's going to play, not take runs. I think Fafita has been absolutely outstanding. I love watching him play, straighten up his running. Now he's getting the offload into his game. Super dangerous, 6 tackle breaks, 4 offloads. So good, so underrated, that stats. How do you think of the Titans, Timmy?
How good's it been for Fafita? Such a joy to see, and we touched on all season. Fifi, roll your sleeves up, do the hard yards, don't worry about the attacking stuff, that'll come. He'd hardly offloaded all season, and then started offloading at will again on the weekends. Like, mate, you'd earned the right to do this. He's playing such good footy. As Guru said, freaking terrifies me as a Blues supporter because, geez, he's looking good. Will he come in and play 80 on the edge? Nanai out game 1?
It's a tough one. So you got Curdy Catewell fighting for a spot, Kafusi fighting for a spot, Fafita fighting for a spot. And you just wonder who's going to steal.
Where does Fifi fit into this for you?
I love Curdy Catewell because I feel like he's made for Origin. It's a toss of a coin at the moment, but purely on form, if you took the names out of it, purely on form, I think you start Fafita and Kafusi. But Catewell has done pretty damn well in Origin. When he went to centre, defended there, very versatile, goes all day, hard and ticket. Like, he's what Origin, he may not be Dallas Johnson, or of that, but he's of that ilk, if you know what I'm saying. Like, just perfect for combinations on that edge. So I think it's actually a much harder decision than people give it credit for. But right now on form, maybe Curdy comes off the bench, or maybe David Fafita does, and they use him more as impact player.
Maybe you start Kurt for the first 25, bring Fafita on for the next 55, as I said, more tiring forwards.
Yeah, maybe they go down that route, and or they have Fafita and they go, mate, go on the middle for 20 and just go skits. That could be a real possibility.
Which, when we were saying that last year, in the back of my mind, I'm going, has he got it in him to go skits for 50 minutes? Yeah. Has he got the initiative in him to go, okay, when I'm on the field, I need to touch it 15 times in 50 minutes. Whereas now I'm looking at it and going,
he could do that.
I think he actually could.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit similar to the Olakau'atu situation. I could see Olakau'atu going on Origin in the middle for 20 minutes and being a real fucking problem for Queensland. Yeah. And I think it's similar to Fafita, although it's not his perfect position. He could go on terror. Like, you go, mate, 20 minutes, I need 10 carries of the ball. And he could literally terrorise the defence.
Like, he's the sort of guy that I can see coming on in Origin now and pushing guys out of the way, which is before last year, no way. Wouldn't have happened.
Mate, we had him on the captain's run a couple of weeks ago. He was such a happy mindset. I was happy for him that he was in such a happy mindset.
Doesn't he look it on the field?
Yeah, I love it. And, mate, he's getting pizzled constantly. It's like, guys, he did not sign himself. Yep. The club signed him. Like, even in the year where he scored 17 tries, he was still getting shit. It's like, bruh. So, Titans, what a win. And once again, I guess we've spoken about it quite a bit in regards to how important the start of the season is, but the Titans are sitting 7th. We're at round 11, heading into round 11. The Titans are sitting 7th. That is just, 2 weeks ago, people were talking about Holbrook's job. And I know it's congested, and I know that they could end up outside the 8.
They were talking very confidently too about his job going. Yep.
Yeah. How quickly do things change? Like, NRL in general, but this year, because it's so close, more than ever.
Yeah. What a good start to the year. I know we've said it before, but from 3 till 10 or 11 is on the same points. That's outrageous.
Like, 2 weeks ago, Tigers, basket case. Not saying they're out of trouble, but 2 wins on the trot.
Yeah.
Dragons, start of the year, half all right. All of a sudden, you're like, hook in all sorts. Yeah. Titans, sitting 7th. Like, the game is the best.
And Titans could lose the next 2 games by 2 points and play well, and he'll be in strife.
He'll be in strife again.
Yeah, 100%.
In saying that, the next 2 weeks they play Newcastle, they play Canterbury, then they go into a bye. So
I think stick with Holbrook, because it's like, it's coming together. You can slowly see it. This young batch of players that are just going to get better each year. And also, Holbrook is developing as a coach. He's learning the NRL and how it is different to the Super League and how, it's more defensive oriented. I personally, and also, like, who are you going to get in there? Like, outside of the superstars they signed when they first came into the comp, the Titans historically have struggled because it's just, I don't know, it's just, I don't know what it is. But it seems like, they were last year obviously didn't have the best year, but the year before that they made the finals. So who knows?
They're in an interesting spot. They play Newcastle and Canterbury. So 2 games that I think they can win, and I think they'll be favourites for both of them. Then they have a bye. They come out of that. They've got 2 weeks to prepare for South Sydney in round 14, who will be missing Origin guys, I would assume, in round 14.
They'll be available.
But whether they play them or not.
Well, so they play the Saturday. So, they'll be like... If the Bunnies are still sizzling and sitting top 4, they'll rest a couple.
And then they play the West Tigers the week after. Then they have a bye again. The Titans could pick up 10 competition points in the next 5 weeks.
And then they play the Broncos round 17.
Which they always get up for.
Which they're for coming off Origin. So same thing where the Broncos, every chance at resting players off the back of that. Payne Haas, number 1.
This is how incredible the defensive effort was. The Eels ran for nearly 500 more metres than the Titans. They had 7 line breaks, yet the Titans only missed 22 tackles and the Eels missed 41 tackles. And we always talk about it ad nauseum. We don't give them shit, but we say the negative about the Titans is their defence. I think they deserve a fucking massive rap for this performance. A fucking massive rap.
You have a look at the Titans too. If they can piece together a number of wins over the next few weeks and keep themselves in that 6, 7, 8 sort of mark towards the back end, they play 5 of their last 7 games at Seabus.
Yeah, not a bad run home. Now let's get to the Eels. Look, this is the Eels, I think. I think this is just who the Eels are.
Yeah.
Up and down, up and down. They've been like this for years now. Do I think they're the one club, maybe them and Rabbitohs are the only 2 clubs where I go, I think it's just a part of their DNA. Like, this is just who they are as a team. They'll give you beat grand finalists, they'll beat the Panthers that beat them in a grand final, and then they'll lose to the Titans in Magic Round in a game that they should win. So it's almost like it is what it is with the Eels. I will say, though, Dylan Brown was absolutely electric on the weekend. And if Cody Walker wasn't playing the Storm, he's my 6 for the round. 2 try assists, 238 metres from 19 runs, 44 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, a line break assist, an offload, 21 tackles, only 1 miss. Just a absolute knock. Put it this way, without Dylan Brown on the field, Eels win 26-10, in my opinion.
How was when Moses went off with 10 to go, Brown gets the keys entirely to himself, a set later, switches to the right. So he roams a little bit, but sticks on the left side more often than not, goes straight over to the right side, cuts straight through, gets him back in the game. Try assist.
Mate, he's so talented, it's crazy. What are your thoughts on the Eels, boys? Madison, 251 metres on the bench.
In 50 minutes.
Jesus.
Well, I said last week, I think Matto's a better edge player, but I think the Parramatta is more important playing through the middle.
Yeah.
He is just a juggernaut when he comes on, and he's a classic example of what we spoke about earlier in the show. Your bench players are so important when you put them on the field. And once they've got their full side back with Regan Campbell-Gillard, and then you've got Matto still coming off the bench there, they're a handful, but as you said, this is Parramatta. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how you solve it. They're actually, for what they do, they're incredibly consistent.
Yeah, they are. You bang on. This is what you
This
expect.
is who they don't lie to you. They are exactly who they tell you are every single week, year on year.
What do you reckon, Timmy, about the Eels?
Yeah, back on Brown, it'll be interesting next week. Mitchy Moses is out. So it was a Category 1 concussion. So he's gone. So Dill Brown, it'll be him and probably Jacob Arthur, I would imagine, in the halves. So
I'd love to see Dill a chance at 7. After seeing the way he took that game before yesterday, I'll be like, no, keep Dill at 6. That's what he is. But after seeing him take that game by the scruff of the neck and nearly drawing it back.
You know what else is annoying too on that point? Previously, when Jacob Arthur has come in to partner Dill doesn't get the ball.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, he goes real quiet. It's
He
almost
goes
like
heaps
he's
quiet.
It's almost like he's more because he's comfortable with Moses.
Yeah.
Whereas I hope we see a more mature deal that goes, no, I'm the man here now. I'm the fucking man. He does what he does.
Which credit to Jacob Arthur, when you have a guy that comes in at halfback, you want him to take control, but it takes away from Dill. I would seriously consider swapping them over.
Like the job should be Arthur come in, help get us around the park, but when we get into any half decent attacking territory, get Dill the ball when he wants it.
Whenever he wants it, just give him the ball. Sivo, obviously 3 tries, 148 metres, 4 line breaks, had a red hot crack, which is great. Will Pensini, another good effort by him, but as I said, like, disappointing. Like, that, if it's hard to say if they want to win a premiership, they need to get this out of the game, because it's like they literally made the grand final last year,
doing the exact same shit.
Yeah, so like, what do you say in this situation? In a perfect world, they wouldn't have this in their game, and maybe that's what's the next step for them to win a comp. But it kind of is what it is. I will say, currently sitting at 13th, and they're on 8 points. So they need to start soon.
Yep.
Because it could get away from them quite quickly. If they lose a couple more games and then obviously above them things continue to go the way they are, they could find themselves nearly 8 points out of the 8.
They have been blessed through that. I think I touched on it last week, but we got a bit more into it around that, the Origin period, playing the 3 major Origin weeks, so around 13, 16, 19, where half the competition's on the bye, where they'll only probably lose Junior Bolo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe RCG.
Maybe RCG, but like they've got it's pretty good forward depth. Like so every chance at winning those 3 weeks. They haven't had a bye yet, so there are points coming, or there very well should be. But you're right, like you can't leave it too late.
You can't. You definitely. I mean, they're currently, as it stands, 4 points outside the 8.
Yeah.
Which is in how hard it is to get a win these days. If they drop 2 more games, it's like, oh shit, 8 points outside the 8, and you've got 10 games to go. It gets very panic stationsy then.
Fuck, it'd be disappointing if that group of players isn't playing finals footy this year.
Mate, if they miss the 8, that's a disaster. That's when even though I would give Brad Arthur another year, I would still be like, wow, pressure. Massive, massive pressure on him.
Yep. Just
because of the roster they have. Now you have to ask yourself who else is out there. And I don't think we should at all be discussing him leaving as we stand. But if they do miss the 8 this year after being in a grand final, I do think that they need to speak to him and say, mate, we can't start a year like this again, because it's too hard to catch up.
Oh, I personally think you could take Dill Brown and Mitch Moses as a halves pairing and put them in just about any team in this competition, and that team should play finals footy.
Yeah, that's how good they are. And Gutho, add Gutho to it.
Yeah. Give them that forward pack. They should definitely be playing finals footy.
Yeah, it's a good point. But this is the Eels. This is what they do. Now let's get into our tips, brought to you by Sportsbet. Always gamble responsibly, guys. Don't just a little dabble here or there, but don't bet more than you can afford. You win some, but you lose more. But let's get into it. Time now for tips. We've got the Broncos v the Storm. Broncos paying $2.15. Storm $1.71. What are you going, boys?
Bit of value in the Broncos, $2.15, I think. Is there a reason for that? Is anyone out? Is there anyone...
Oh, we got just a bad record against the Storm, I think.
Full strength.
And it is
Brisbane are like full strength. They're missing no one.
I think it's at Melbourne as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's one of our first away games as well. So
I'm going to back Brisbane to win that. I think they'll win down there.
Far out. I don't know, boys. It's been a big weekend.
You weren't there when Matty Johns gave us his expert analysis.
Matty Johns gave us his tips.
On wise tip Broncos. I will go with the Storm.
You're a dog.
Yeah, I'm going Melbourne as well.
You're a dog. Broncos, Bulldogs, Warriors.
Oh, fuck. I'll go
I'm going the Wars. I'm
Yeah,
going
I'll
the
go the
Wars.
Warriors too,
After
actually.
Wars.
Yeah, I'm on the Wires.
Yeah, me too.
Wow, all of us. Holy. Panthers, Roosters.
Penrith.
Panthers.
Panthers.
South, Tigers. South's paying $1.15. Tigers $5.50. I'm tipping South, but the history where Tigers seem to get up for them, $5.50 isn't that bad. again, I'm definitely tipping South. They're on red hot form. But I'm just saying, going by history, as you know, Matty, like it's not like 550 is pretty fucking.
The start's 15.5.
Yeah.
That's great.
Not a bad start.
Like if you take away the last game, which was the back end of last year where South whipped them, the game before that, South won. The few games before that, sorry, Tigers won. The few games before that, South won, but they were all close.
Yeah.
So, but the start isn't bad.
Bunnies for me, but I'd be taking Tigers at the start.
Bunnies.
Yeah, South for sure.
Bunnies. Cowboys v the Dragons. Mate, if that Cowboys team turns up, I'm going Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm going Cows.
Cows.
Cowboys.
Raiders v the Eels. Raiders are favourites.
Jesus.
Wow.
I guess without Moses.
Moses.
Yeah, true.
Canberra.
Going Canberra, but yeah, geez, the odds for Para.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, Canberra.
225 currently as it stands. I am going to go. Have we all gone the same so far? No, there's
He's
been
been different. We've been very similar. I think this is a good game to go. Rogue.
I'm going Rogue, going the Eels.
Nice.
Going Rogue. Knights v Titans. I'm going Titans, man.
Yeah, I'll go Titans.
I love teams off the bye, so I'm going to go the Knights.
Yeah, with you, Timmy. Newcastle.
Okay, there's going to be some kerfuffles next week. Manly v Sharkies. Bit of like Manly 260. I know that they weren't, but
At Brookie.
at Brookie, we know that's a bloody. It's almost like a Bermuda Triangle, like the bloody Sharkies home ground.
Sharkies.
Sharkies.
Nah, I'm going Manly.
Wow, I'm going Sharkies. I'm going Sharkies. Beers and break evens 3 p.m. Wednesday.
That's the one. We'll
Got
see you
any
there.
prizes or anything you're giving away?
Yeah, we've got our footballs. We've got our hats. So giving away to weekly winners. So Wednesday, 3 p.m.
And make sure to follow SC Playbook 1 on Instagram and Rugby League Guru on Instagram. Don't follow Matty. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. And as usual, I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.